What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Not sure exactly when the feed started. Didn't mean to give you the I'm looking away, look at the camera, oh, hello approach to starting the show. Just happened to have something pop up on my phone down by my left elbow there. Wanted to see what it was. It was a fantasy notification, of course. Just somebody dropping Jeimer Candelario, who got DFA'd just a little while ago by the Cincinnati Reds. So we've got Christian Encarnacion Strand in the lineup today, and no Jeimer Candelario, who's just working his way back from the IL. But it's not going to be for the Reds. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope your Monday is going well. It is not fit for man nor beast outside. Heat index of 109, 110 degrees outside. Gross in the Northeast. A lot of areas impacted by that around the country. We saw some of that playing in Chicago and various areas just for, I think it was the biggest weekend for home runs we've had all season. Just heating up around the country as mid-June turns to late June. We actually are in summer now, officially. So should be another wild one tonight. Got a weird pitching board. A lot of usable arms. Only a few good arms. So it'll be an interesting one to talk through. Cujo's here. Don's here. Ken Woodhouse, Beyond the Rabbit Hole. OMG Lowell's. I know it's not Don. I think it's don't at the beginning of that. Don't play people you know who is. I'm just going to keep going with Don. Don saying, right now in large field entry, I have Woo and Patrick. Now I have to build my offense. I'm starting to learn baseball now. It's a good combination off the top. Feel like they're both going to be owned. Patrick's getting buzzy. That just basically anybody against the Pirates this year is definitely usable. More than good enough to beat that team. 8,600 on DK kind of works. We'll get into it. I kind of prefer them at 79 on FanDuel. That's a cheaper relative price. Lot to work with on the mound. Beyond the Rabbit Hole, no Jack Flaherty today, fortunately. Although we've got multiple guys that kind of fall into that kind of bucket, so it'll be fun. Could be Travis here. Anthony Taylor says there's fire outside. Yep. Hot days. Kind of crazy things going on in the world. And we're here to talk about fantasy baseball because we need a good distraction from all that nonsense. So let's dive into it. 8 interesting games on both sites tonight. Or 8 games on both sites, the majority of which are interesting. No bad weather to report. It's all Roth's entire board is green, just calling out hot, humid, windy spots. That top game, Yankees at Cincinnati, a 10-run total to lead the slate. The Yankees drawing a 5-2-7 implied. Bats got going mostly in the last few days after that atrocious stretch that they had put up. This should bode well for the offense for both them and the Reds, probably. I say probably because the Yankees starter, Alan Winans, he's 29 years old, so you got to take it with a grain of salt, but he has been dominating in AAA this season. Giving runs off the board. Granted, he's pitching to a .90 ERA over 9 starts, 11 outings, 50 innings, but a 3.33 xFIP. So we have to be very realistic about it, but he's seen a spike in strikeout, changed his arsenal up a little bit, I believe. So it's a really interesting one, but it should play up for Reds bats on the other side of that. And they're drawing a 4.84 implied total. So I think we're looking definitely on a very hot and muggy day, reportedly per Mr. Roth in Cincinnati, looking for bats on both sides of that one. It's Nick Lodolo on the mound for the Reds, who is entirely gettable. 2 home runs allowed. He's allowed exactly 2 home runs in 4 of his last 5 games. And in 1, 2, 3, 7, he's allowed 7 different times. Oh, fuck. I'm looking at the wrong column. I'm sorry. Those are walks. It's 1 home run in each of the last 2 and 2 home runs in the one before that. I saw the 2 and then my eyes jumped up to the other 2 and I was like, wow, that's a bad stretch. But those I moved over to the walks by accident. But he's been gettable for power. That would have been atrocious. And surprising. I didn't think he was that bad. The Braves and the Mets, Schwellenbach on the mound. Monster season in progress. He's given up runs in spots throughout the season, but a lot of strikeouts Excellent stuff. Just a really challenging matchup against the Mets, and that's an 8.5 run total. His offense is pulling a big total that should help his win upside. Definitely projects out like a very strong option today. But again, challenged by the Mets. They're at the sub 4 implied total, though. One of the few teams below 4 runs are the New York Mets, which is kind of surprising. Paul Blackburn's on the mound, at least to start, for the Mets. That's what's pushing a big total toward the Braves. Got to at least consider some of their bats. He has not really been good in his 4 outings so far, and he's been making just short appearances. I give him 4 and change, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Brian Wu against Bailey Ober in the next one up. That's the Seattle Mariners against the Twins. Just an 8.5 run total, but the Mariners look interesting on their side. They're showing a little bit of power against Ober. They're also drawing a 4.5 implied total. 4.08 implied on the Twins side is not nothing either, but Wu is mostly terrific. Few games in the last 5 outings, he's given up some runs. Strikeout stuff has been down slightly over that stretch. Had a very good outing the last time out against the Red Sox, though. 7 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. Diamondbacks at the White Sox. It's Erod for the D-backs. Another uncomfortable one. I would say that's our less talented, less reliable Jack Flaherty of the day, if you want to throw that. Somebody threw that name into chat before. Erod is very up and down, but he can be good enough. He can definitely be good enough to beat this White Sox team. Very much in play. The interesting wrinkle is Shane Smith against the Diamondbacks. He's been pretty effective throughout the season. He's been a good limiter of power, so he's having an impact on that Diamondbacks lineup. Still no Corbin Carroll in the projected version of the lineup. So, I mean, I don't know that it's a spot we want to go to Shane Smith, but it might have a little bit of an effect on the D-backs. 4.88 implied total on another game where hot, muggy, wind blowing out. Blown right to left across the field, actually, per Roth. Excuse me. But hot and humid. Winds are blowing out in St. Louis for the Cubs in St. Louis game. And wind is blowing out for that for the Braves and Mets. The Pirates and the Brewers. We've got Braxton Ashcraft. I give him 3 innings. I think that's all we're getting here. He was pitching deeper than that in back in May down in AAA. He made he was making regular starts and had gone 6 innings several times. But for basically the entire month of June, he's been working 1-2 inning relief stints. So I think that's what we're getting here. And then Chad Patrick on the bump for the Brewers is definitely interesting, as I was just saying before, and somebody mentioned in the chat. He's an interesting option. He is a little bit pricey on DraftKings, but probably worth it against what has been probably the most gettable team for opposing fantasy appearances all season. Ben Brown's another interesting spot. Very affordable. Dangerous enough team on the other side. The Cards got to give them their due. Mid-4s implied total. Brown can be a little bit up and down, but when he's on, he's definitely very, very good. Has excellent stuff. Future ace caliber pitcher. So I'm really interested in him. And then Liberator, I don't really love the upside given the lack of strikeouts and just that Cubbies team being very good at what they do as far as just getting on base, even if they're not hitting for a ton of power against. He's vulnerable enough to power, despite not giving up a ton. For their team, he's definitely not a great spot. 4.32 implied total on the Cubs. I think I lean bats in that one, but Liberator is entirely usable. He's been pitching mostly well this season. Red Sox and the Angels getting down toward the end of the night. Only these 2 last games are West Coast games. Everything else, I think, starts before 7:45, I want to say. I think that was what. Yeah, 7:45 for that Cubbies St. Louis game. And then it's a gap till 9:38. So if you're looking for late swaps, you got to do it in the 45 minutes after the lock to get those handful of games in. Otherwise, you're just looking at those 2 late games toward the end of the night. But this one with the Red Sox and the Angels is definitely appealing for bats on either side. Red Sox got Willie Abreu back. They're pulling a 4.65 implied total. They didn't get Rafi Devers back, unfortunately. That's not going to happen. But at least Abreu, a little bit of a bump for a big lefty bat. They're going up against Jack Kachanowicz, who is mostly bad, but had that great start against the Yankees in his last appearance, struck out 8. He did give up 2 home runs in that game, but those were the only 2 hits over 5 1/3, the only 2 runs that he allowed against the Yanks, too. So, decent start and way better than we were expecting from Jack Chanowitz. I don't think he does that against this Red Sox team, but it's at least on the table for 6 innings of 2-run type ball. Not a high strikeout total most of the time. That was 2 strikeouts more than his previous season high, and I would say 4 strikeouts more than his average game, just glancing at it. Walker Buehler's on the mound for the Red Sox. The Angels showing a lot of offensive upside. Might be a little bit sneaky today going up against Buehler. He's had a couple decent starts. He's had a lot of messy starts. I think he's very gettable for their power, but they do have strikeouts that they could push in his direction. 2 starts back, he went 7 innings, struck out 7 against the Rays. Did give up 3 earned on 6 hits, though, including a home run. He has given up, and I'm looking at the correct column this time, at least 1 home run in his last 5 starts with 2 home run games in there. So he's definitely vulnerable to premium contact, and that's what the Angels have in spades throughout that lineup. So, like their upside. Mitchell Parker and Stephen Kolek to round things out. Parker on the mound for the Nats. 4.86 implied total against him for the Padres. And Stephen Kolek going for the Pods, keeping the Nationals down to a 3.74 implied total. Might be kind of interesting at the end of the night with Kolek. He lands right here on the pitching board, but he's only 78, 79. He's very fairly priced, which is good because he's not at all a strikeout pitcher. Spiked to a 7 strikeout performance, but that was in 9 innings in a complete game shutout earlier in the season at Coors Field in his second start of the year on May 10th. But that was a outlier performance bolstered by the innings. In most of his average starts, he works into the 6th, but doesn't complete it, strikes out 3 to 5. For the money, I think that's okay. And I think that plays okay against this Nationals team. If he can keep the home run off the board, if he can keep the power off the board, which he's pretty good at typically, we could be looking at an affordable, decent day there. I think he's going to be popular for it, though, and I think everybody's going to have that. So I don't know that you're necessarily gaining ground versus taking a shot on some Ks from Walker Buehler at 75, playing Erod for a little bit less, even though he's probably going to be chalky at 73, trying to ride with these guys at higher projections but higher danger spots for 77 and 76. I think there's a ton to work with in the SP2 price range before we even get to Chad Patrick at 86, before we really discuss Liberatore at 82. There's just a lot of options in here. Alan Winans is not crazy, despite that heavy run total, despite a hard-hitting enough Reds lineup that will throw some lefties at him, which is where he's probably going to be vulnerable in the show. Kid's been striking out like 29% against like 6% walks with a different-looking pitcher so far this year, but again, pitching in AAA as a 29-year-old. This is a guy we've seen struggle at the major league level before. So I don't think we get excited about it. 68, 7,000, though, when I fixed his back-end projections, he hit the board a little bit harder. He was like 2.5 points projected lower than this in the initial cut. But I think he's on the board. There's not a lot of daylight between Mitchell Parker right here and Bailey Ober. Ben Brown's offset slightly on some strikeout upside, but he's very, very shaky as far as the reliability there and the matchup. From here to here, there's playability. I meant to go here to here because Lodolo to me is problematic at 9,000, 8,000 on DraftKings. Against the Yankees drawing that kind of total, yes, there are strikeouts in the Yankees lineup. But in that ballpark, hottest day of the year so far, just doesn't seem like a $9,000 spot. 8 on DraftKings, if you want to roll the dice on it, I'm sure he's going to be fairly low owned at that price. It at least comps with, let's say, Chad Patrick at higher ownership against the Pirates, or Liberatore against the Cubbies, certainly for 82. But problematic. Kachanowicz is difficult to trust, but 65, you could throw that dart, but you don't really need to. Like if I'm going to 65, I'm not really gaining ground by dropping down from there when I can have Winans with a little bit of strikeout upside, maybe at 7,000. Same deal with Erod 73 and so on. Blackburn and Ashcraft are kind of pretty hard nosed though. Not getting enough innings at either guy, I don't think, and really challenging matchups for either of those guys to succeed in. Up at the top of the board, Brian Wu. Fantastic option at 96 on both sites. definitely going to have a fairly large share of Woo. There are good bats in that Twins lineup. They've been an up and down team overall, but Woo is tremendous. Same deal with Schwelly. You can see the projection offset, though. Model is liking the spot better for Woo at a slightly cheaper price on both sites. Both guys should have some popularity, but I think Woo definitely outstretches Schwellenbach given the matchup. No reason to think that Schwellenbach couldn't put a ceiling on that projection, but I think it's fair that he's a little bit behind Woo given how good the Mets are, how they mostly limit strikeouts. Ben Brown, very differently priced across sites, 87.77. That's an opportunity on DraftKings. It's a challenge on FanDuel, really. That's kind of how that falls. Could find strikeout upside, could keep that up and down cards team off the board, but could also lose a few to walks and get problematic very, very quickly. Ober is a gamble at 75.76. That Mariners team is definitely good enough to beat him. They're showing some power upside. They've got Luke Raley in that lineup now. It's just an interesting enough Seattle team showing enough upside against. So it's just a slate where like these two are legitimately slightly offset. Neither matchup is easy. And again, prefer Woo to Schwelly there. And then everybody from here down is essentially the same. We'll talk through the quality of the different options, but there is not a lot of difference in that group. And then you got a gamble there, and then two guys off the board. It's a really interesting slate. Ricky Lee, good afternoon. Doug Gilly, what's going on, buddy? Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you've never subscribed to the channel. That's the one thing that you can really do that would help out. The other thing you could really do is just go over to rotoscouts, pick up a subscription for under $1 a day. Right now, we're riding baseball only. I was thinking about it today, maybe, trying to, Ricky says another day, another bias Yankees projection. Yeah, if you saw the stacks board, Yanks at the top of the stacks board today. I believe they're also the top of the power index. Look, it's not my fault. I hate days like today. I hate when they're projected well because it's like, yeah, man, look, it's not me. I could wear a different hat, but you guys know I'm a Yankees fan either way. It's just Stanton. The guy hit 0 home runs. Why is he so high? Because he crushes baseballs. I know you're kidding. But yeah, if you subscribe to the channel here, it really helps. Feeds the algorithm, helps people find us. You'll note that we were talking about it in Discord, and I said I was going to do it, and I went and did it. In the description today, there should be a bunch of just crazy bullshit. I was somebody dropped the link in the Discord saying, "Hey, I was thinking about checking out this guy's YouTube stream. He's got a model that models like hot streaks. He's got a model that's going to project home runs based on momentum," was the word that they used. And I was like, yeah, that's not a thing. So I got to see what this guy's talking about. And I went over to his channel, and his model, he was referring to it as like, I'm looking at my sheet, and you can hear like rattling around because he literally meant that he was looking at his sheet of paper. And there's nothing wrong with taking notes. I take notes. But he was literally referring to like his sheet. When I say that, I mean this. And he meant his piece of paper on which he had written notes that were literally the last 3 games worth of just hard hit totals. Not even rates, no context, no matchups, no ballparks. He would say things a couple times like, and he had, 2 games ago, he had 4 hard hits. One of them would have been a home run in 3 out of 30 ballparks, as if that's a good thing. It's like just absent any kind of understanding of how math works, baseball works, anything. The guy's got 8,000 some odd followers on YouTube, gang. That video I'm talking about had 265 something thumbs ups on it. Let's get our act together. Point being, I stole his hashtags and so on and so forth. His nonsense to feed the algorithm. It's in the description today. Let's see if it works. We're talking about whether or not it might draw new likes. So if you're new here, welcome aboard. Ricky Lee, what? Hot streak is not a thing? It is certainly not. Nothing about hot streak in my pants. Nothing about hot streaks is forward looking. Everything about it is backward looking. It is non-predictive. It is look at what he's done, not look at these numbers that suggest what is supposed to be going on. Anyway, let's get into it before we lose everybody for ranting and raving about YouTube instead of talking about baseball. See if we got lineups in this first one here. No, we don't. We do have a couple other ones have come in. We'll get those when we get to those games. So, starting right out of the gate here, Mr. Winans. I don't know if it's Winans or Winans. I guess we'll see, depending on his performance. 7,000, bad joke. 7,6,800, good price. Bad joke, good price. As mentioned, 2 starts last year, 7 2/3. 6 starts the year before, 32 1/3. He is 29 years old. Has been lights out in AAA for the Yankees this year. Last year in those 2 starts in the show, a 15.26 ERA. 68, one of the lowest stuff plus ratings I've ever seen. 5.66 xFIP is a lot better than a 15.26 ERA, but it's still completely atrocious. Did generate a 13.6% swinging strike rate, but only managed a 9.8% strikeout, 9.8% walk. It just means he threw a few really good pitches to a handful of hitters that he faced. 7 2/3 innings. The season before, those numbers aren't terrible. 5.29 ERA, a 3.97 xFIP, just a 5.5% walk rate, 24.1% strikeouts, 10.8% swinging, 31.4% CSW. That is not an uninteresting pitcher. It's not an overly reliable, like polished pitcher in terms of he's probably going to give up a few runs, and he probably will. He give up some home runs and some premium contact. That's probably where they'll come from, and they'll probably come to somebody hitting left-handed. But if that is at least a tiny, tiny sliver of major league sample justification that what we're seeing in the minor leagues this year maybe translates at least to like back to that level of talent, for these cheap prices against the Reds team that carries a 23.3% swinging strike rate, despite their near 5 implied total, Alan Winans is kind of on the board at 7. He's on the board at 68 on FanDuel. What I don't think you get on FanDuel is the quality start. I don't think there's any universe in which he's pitched 5 good innings and Aaron Boone sends him out for a 6th. Just not his nature as a manager. It's possible. He pitched, he went 6 in his most recent minor league start, ironically at Cincinnati against the Reds affiliate. He struck out 6, walked 1, 2 earned runs on 5 hits. That was the only time in these 9 starts, 11 appearances that he completed 6 innings. Given that he barely, he's got 1 game where he got through 2 hitters in the 5th, 1 game where he got through 1 hitter in the 5th, and then every other game was 5 innings exactly or fewer. So I think we're looking at 5. He's priced correctly for that, given the strikeout upside, but you don't have a ton of ceiling beyond this. Finds a few Ks, you could be looking at 30 for your 6,800 on FanDuel, 15 for your 7,000 on DraftKings. Perfectly acceptable for those prices. So I think he's on the board. Very, very high danger spot, though. Again, some of these lefties, Ellie hitting left-handed. Do we have Will Benson? We don't have Will Benson. That's a surprise. Unless they made some roster changes included that I mentioned earlier in the show. I don't know if Benson was part of that, but surprised not to see him. Anyway, there are still some capable left-handed bats here, and there's some decent enough righties and hard-hitting righties. So not a safe spot for Winans. On the other side, Lodolo, 3.71 ERA, a 4.0 xFIP, perfectly serviceable. 3.13% home run rate, but not as bad as I almost made it sound when I was talking about it at the beginning of the show, looking at the wrong column. But 8% barrels allowed, 41.2% hard hits, 89.5 miles an hour of exit velo, leading to a 3.13% home run rate. He does have a decent swinging strike rate at 10.4, but he doesn't pay it off. Doesn't really finish off hitters all that often. Just a 25.3% CSW. So kind of a limited pitcher. The Yankees do have, if I'm going to call out the 23.3 on the Reds, I have to say something about the 23.9 that the Yankees carry as a strikeout rate. That's a very real number. There are definitely strikeouts in this Yankees lineup. And on the days where they fail, like what we saw against Kyle Hendricks and Jack Kachanowicz, where Hendricks struck out 9 and Kachanowicz struck out 8 in their best performances in the entire history of their lives. Not entirely exactly for Hendricks, but maybe for Janowitz. That's where you hit the downside with the Yanks. Could that happen against the lefties? Sure. But a lot of these guys benefit. There's a lot of very, very talented, very, very hard-hitting righties in this lineup. So, kind of lean Yankees. Model kind of leans Yankees. Vegas kind of leans Yankees. I do think you could throw some Lodolo darts at 8,000 on DraftKings. At 9,000 on FanDuel, that's a really expensive proposition. I think it's going to be very low owned. So through that lens, you could do it against like the Schwellenbach and Wu shares of the world. And you could do it and feel okay about it. It's not like you're taking a bad pitcher. You're taking just a medium pitcher. He's an okay, like 3-4 starter. Yankees bats are the talking point. So let's start with the Reds. We'll see if we can talk through the Reds long enough to have the Yankees lineup drop on our heads. TJ Friedl and Gavin Lux at least are not hitting 1-2 in today's lineup. It was just getting annoying with those two guys being basically the same type player. Just going 1-2 lefty up at the top. Friedl at 47-31, reasonable. He's got 8 home runs, 9 steals, a 378 on base is tremendous, a 124 WRC plus. What does stick out is still the 313 xWOBA, just a 145 ISO. It comes on just 3.4% barrels, 30% hard hits. It's just who TJ Friedl is, but he can hit situational home runs. He definitely is talented enough at getting on base. He's low strikeout. He's pushed the walk rate up, interestingly, this year from 7.5 last year, 8.5 the year before, to 11.5 this year. It's a big part of the spike in on base and run creation. If you can keep that up, I don't know that he's worth 47 on DraftKings. It's still a high price, but he's at least an interesting table setter for Matt McClain, who is maybe coming on a little bit, 209, 301, 351. It's difficult to see, but it's in there. 9 home runs, 11 steals, 314 xWOBA, just a 79 WRC plus, but is carrying an 8.6% barrel, 42.6% hard hit. Not where we need him to be, which is in like this kind of territory maybe, but getting closer. Technically, I mean, the hard hit is over the mark, but I want those barrels back. Ellie De La Cruz is a superstar. You get him from the left side against a quad A righty. As much as I can get enthusiastic about the Allen Winan spot for maybe some sneaky cheap upside, you have to get excited about Ellie coming in with a 10.97, 17 home runs in 335 plate appearances, has stolen 21 bases, creating runs 23% better than the average player by WRC plus, a 228 ISO, 15.6% barrels and 47.6% hard hits. Like I was saying, as much as I can get excited about Winans, he's nothing more than a quad A pitcher because he's 29, and any of that success we've seen this year has come against AAA hitters. Spencer Steer, 3,000, 2,700, having a challenging season, 230, 287, 352, 72 WRC plus. The most concerning xWOBA, 273. Contact has been terrible this season. He's very cheap. He's hitting cleanup. I mean, there are reasons to go there. It's a tough way to burn first base this season, though. Gavin Lux at third, maybe, since you get a little separation there, maybe he's kind of interesting as maybe picking up some of his hard hit, some of his barrel, 4.2% barrel, 37.1% hard hit, slightly better than what Friedel's giving you higher up, though he's totaled only 3 home runs in 261 chances and only a 109 ISO with a 309 xWOBA. Those guys are very similar, just light hitting. They're not bad, but they're just not power bats. It's a challenge for this team. Tyler Stevenson is a power bat, 12.8% barrels, 52% hard hits, 6 home runs in 163 chances, 179 ISO. We've seen him hit for better stretches of results as far as his power. I don't know that we've seen a better stretch of premium contact from him. So just not finding the results on that monster barrel rate, the significant hard hit rate. Those will stay high. They'll probably come down from where they are and normalize back to the last 2 years. But he is definitely an interesting catcher bat for 4,200. Again, when you get him against a quad A pitcher. Jose Trevino is less interesting despite overperforming Tyler Stevenson in 153 very good plate appearances so far. 4 home runs, 307, 349, 514, a 207 ISO. Just a 5.6% barrel, 39% hard hits, though. Not striking out, not really drawing walks, so you get a lot of consistent bat on ball out of him. He's playable at 35, but it would be a mistake to take him too many times over Stevenson. Jake Fraley at 35-28, mix and match quality player, a few home runs, few steals. Encarnacion Strand survived what was expected to be a day where he got sent down because Candelario was rejoining the team. They went the other way. And honestly, kudos to them, giving the young kid a chance. 105 pretty bad plate appearances so far. Does have 5 home runs. Does have a 9.1% barrel and a 48.1% hard hit. And a significant prospect report going back over the years of monster raw power. That's what we're here for with Encarnacion Strand. 8.78 in the home run model against the guy who can barely pitch his way out of AAA. Maybe. See if we got the Yankees. Does not look like. Is it out on Twitter? Cameron Misner, option to AAA by the Rays. Tyler Fitz, option to AAA by the Giants. Luis Angel Acuna, option to AAA by the Mets. A lot of movement today. John Singleton signing a minor league deal with the Astros again. No Yankees lineup yet. So as we know, we got a little bit of wild card action with this lineup while they juggle just getting guys plate appearances. Lot of quality bats here. So any direction we head is going to be an interesting Yankees lineup. You've got the obvious names up at the top. The shakeup probably comes. Come on like Jason Dominguez. He's in this projected. I don't know that he's in the actual. Really, really difficult for him this year against lefties. 167, 273, 273 with a 106 ISO, 545 OPS, 57 WRC plus. 28.6% strikeouts, 11.7% walks. The strikeouts and walks are relatively similar, but the strikeouts are a point higher. The walks are a point lower against lefties as a right-handed bat. Versus righties as a lefty is where you want Dominguez. 270, 358, 426, just a 156 ISO, but a 122 WRC plus so far this season. So I don't know that we get him in the mix. Just depends on which way they choose to go with some of these interchangeable parts. Austin Wells, some of his power this season has come against left-handed pitching. He's at 220, 281, 439. We're not getting the on base. We're not getting the walks that they expect from this player. He's striking out a little bit more, but the power is very realistic. A 220 ISO on the board. I would expect to have Wells in the lineup. DJ LeMahieu's an interesting option. He's only 2,900 at second base on DraftKings. He's 26 multi-position on FanDuel. 255, 333, 351 in 105 plate appearances since returning to the lineup. That went by in the blink of an eye. I feel like he just came back like a week ago. 97 WRC plus is underwhelming. 321 xwOBA is stable around the average. The ISO is a little bit disappointing, especially given the 50.7% hard hit rate. Only a 5.5% barrel, but DJ's always been a guy who puts about that amount of barrel on the ball, and hard hits come and go. So if he's finding some hard hit this season, keeping strikeouts down would be helpful. This year he's at 22-ish%. That's similar to 2 years ago. Last year in the short sample was just 15-4, but he's walking kind of like he used to and getting on base. So a lot of positive attributes going on for DJ. Right-handed bat with some pop in it against Lodolo, who could be vulnerable here. It's a way to get cheap with the Yankees bats at a key position. So I like DJ. Give it at second base across sites. Up at the top of the lineup, Paul Goldschmidt, 45-31. Murders lefties. 298, 358, 447. A little bit of a dip overall over the last few weeks for Goldie, but still a tremendous bat in general. Just going through a little bit of a slide and a little bit of a normalization, if we're being honest about things. But even in that stretch, has hit lefties very, very well. Love the upside for him. Cody Bellinger, assuming he's there, 48-32, 10 home runs on the board, a 320 on base, creating runs 10% better than average. Very solid 336 xwOBA under the covers. He's pushed barrels up a little bit. That was a little bit higher a week or two ago, but it's still notably higher than the last couple seasons. Same with the hard hit rate. He hasn't lost strikeout for that. He's actually gained some walk for that. Solid number in the home run model. A little bit more affordable, it looks like. Similar price, 48.32, fairly similar. Aaron Judge at 66.49, obviously the most significant bat. No need to really dive into him. He's just the best bat in baseball, 15.57 in today's home run model. Giancarlo Stanton to get back into it, the most unique swing speed and fast swing rate in baseball last season for when we had him. This season so far, yet to barrel a ball in his 21 plate appearances, but a 76.9% hard hit rate. He's been stinging the ball while not necessarily getting it exactly where we want it. 39,300. I think he's priced for the cheap home run. I think he'll probably get ownership in Yankee stacks, but maybe he falls a little bit short of some of the other guys' exposure. 381 on base, 316, 381, 368 to start out. A 117 WRC plus. Just hasn't, again, in the tiny sample, hasn't squared things up quite yet. But that's coming. That timing is coming around. That swing speed is undeniable, even if it's hampered a little bit by the elbows. 12.38 in the home run model. Jazz Chisholm at 51.33. Jazzy holding his own in the slash line this year against lefties. What he lacks is the power output so far this season against lefties. Just a 102 ISO versus a monster 276 against righties. But he's slashing 265, 362, 367, which is actually better than the line against right-handed pitching. And he's carrying a 112 WRC plus. Granted, this is in 58 plate appearances. That's versus 136 against righties. For the career, it's 228, 290, 365 with a 136 ISO, 79 WRC plus against lefties versus 256, 324, 481 with a 225 ISO and a 118 WRC plus against righties. So it's safe to say, despite some decent performance in a small sample so far this year, Jazz is expected to be a little bit diminished here. Another bat you might not see, depending on what they decide to do with the lineup. You could see him, Ozzy, one of the cheap infielders, Ozzy Peraza or somebody like that, slide in. DJ picks up third base or whatever. A lot of ways they could play this. Volpe is interesting against lefties. Much as you want to go the other way with Dominguez, Volpe comes up on this side of splits. For one, as I mentioned a bunch of times, dude's just hit a ton of doubles so far this year. He's hit 9 home runs overall. He's also got 20 doubles in his pocket already. Not an uninteresting bat. Against lefties, he's slashing 300, 370, 463 with a 163 ISO this year. Against righties, just 209, 285, 408. He does have a higher ISO, 199 ISO, but only a 93 WRC plus. Against lefties, 134 WRC plus. Two of his 9 home runs have come in the 92 plate appearances against lefties. The other 7 in 215 plate appearances against righties. I think he's an interesting bat. He's been overall just kind of squaring the ball up more. 9% barrels, 42.5% hard hits. He's cut, no, we're back up a little bit in strikeouts. We're at 24.8, 22.6 last year. We've exceeded that now, but he's at least kept walks up. 9.1% walks is interesting and shows a little bit of growth, a 310 on base. He should be stealing a few more bases along the way. I like the idea of DJ, assuming this is the lineup, that gets you to, that's just 47 apiece for that 4-man. And just Stanton, the most obvious guy. If that's anywhere near, and they don't even have to be in this specific batting order, but if those 5 guys are in the lineup on FanDuel, that's a 45.40 average price. So $4,600 a man to get Goldschmidt, Bellinger, Judge, Stanton, and DJ LeMahieu in your lineup against Nick Lodolo in this ballpark with a 5+ implied total. Cheap. That is a cheap upside stack for the Yanks. Same deal on FanDuel. They're not expensive today. I'm not really sure why they're quite as cheap as they are, but we take advantage. Yankees bats, Reds bats. I got to go Alan Winans over Nick Lodolo. That's how it's projecting. Seems weird to say. I wouldn't be shocked if Lodolo had a good day. Put it that way. find some strikeouts against the Yanks, keep them off the board. Same day that Kachanowicz had. Maybe he gives up 2 solo home runs, and that's the only 2 hits and 2 home runs he gives up, and finds 8 strikeouts along the way. Would not shock me in the slightest. Lodolo is usable, but I'll lean slightly Winans because he's, it's the more interesting thing to do. Oh, and now the Yankees lineup is out. Goldie Belly, Judge, Stanton, Jazz, Volpe, Wells, LeMahieu. Dominguez makes the lineup, but he's hitting 9th. So I think it's all the same guys in a slightly different order. That's the confirmed version of the lineup. Everything I said still applies. It's the same guys, slightly different order. That stack is still there, obviously, but you're going from the 8th spot now. Not a tragedy to offset it by 1. It rejoins it closer going this way, so same deal. But yeah. All right. Let's move on out of this one. And Mets is in, Braves is not. We have it that way. Paul Blackburn, a tragedy on the mound waiting to happen. I gave him 4 innings here, I think, or 4 and a change, and he's probably not going to survive that. 13% strikeout rate in his 13 innings, his 2 starts, his 4 appearances this year. Last time out, 3 earned runs, a home run allowed to 17 hitters against this same Braves lineup. Not that that has any immediate bearing on anything other than just a recent sample, but it's just been bad. I don't think we're getting... If we get 5, it's believable, but I don't know that we get 5 usable, decent innings with any sort of real upside. There are a few strikeouts along the way in this Braves lineup, sure, but there's just so much danger. He hasn't been bad in terms of the premium contact, the power so far this year in a very small sample. Last year in 14 starts, 75 and a third innings, a 3.80% home run rate, came on an 11-degree average launch, 8.2% barrel, was decent at limiting hard hit and exit velo that year. Same deal the year before. The home run rate was lower because he missed more barrels. Similarly low hard hit and exit velo. So it's believable that there's a slight impact on some of those Braves power numbers. You got this stretch of premium Braves where we're usually seeing those guys at or above 10. They're at 10 essentially today. So there is a slight impact on some of those guys, but they still look pretty tremendous. Ronald Acuna's already got 8 home runs. He's got a monster slash line in his first 117 plate appearances, a 230 WRC plus. Just one of the very best players in baseball. 64.44, you're paying full price for him, judging kind of pricing, but similar kind of upside, similar kind of spot, any given slate. Matty Olson for 53.35 has reclaimed a little bit of price. He's got 15 home runs, a 225 ISO, a 394 xWOBA under the covers with a 131 WRC plus. Monster premium contact, has been a tremendous power bat for years. No questions asked about Matt Olson in this spot against Paul Blackburn. Could absolutely mash. What's going on? AOD Gundacker sent me here. What's up, buddy? Welcome. Good to see you. OMG Lulz, OMG Father. You guys come together? Came in the same car? Braves lineup is in? Fantastic. It's not on labs yet. Let me see. Mariners is in too. Cunha, Olsen, Ozuna. Ozuna. Come on. There goes there. Ozuna goes there. Really. Michael Harris goes there. Eli White and Nick Allen. There we go. So Ozuna and Riley switch places in the lineup from where we had it, and we get Eli White swapped in late in the lineup. But a very tremendous Braves lineup, as I was saying. That does actually nudge, as you can see. Ozuna now slips up since he's hitting third instead of cleanup. He gains a slight little nudge in the home run model there and actually ticks up above 10. So now we've got 3 guys in it above 10. Austin Riley at 9.48 has hit a dozen home runs. Ozuna's got 11 on the board, kind of scuffling his way through some struggles, through some pain, but still an 11.9% barrel, 49.2% hard hit for Ozuna, 14.2 and 50% for Austin Riley. There are strikeouts for all 4 of those guys, 22 to 28% range, but 3 of those guys are in the 21-22 range, not the 28 range. Riley is striking out a little bit more than I'd like this season compared to the last 2, walking a little bit less. It's had a minor impact on his overall line, but I would expect tremendous things to come and could be a good day to get that started against Paul Blackburn. Ozzy Albies at 39.28. You just kind of riding with faith that Ozzy eventually finds it here. 39.28 is a fine price for the player he once was. Just hasn't been that guy for 300 plate appearances this year, a few hundred last year. You know, this is a full season now of not great. The 15 home runs, 14 steals is certainly not this. That was only a 269 plate appearances back there. It's just difficult to see him right now. I think he's in the mix, especially given the spot in the lineup, the fact that he'll be way less popular than a lot of the other Braves. He makes things work with price, but he hasn't been great overall. Sean Murphy's been mashing baseballs, 11% barrels. He hit 9 home runs. A lot of them came really, really quickly when he first came back. It's been more normalized lately, 219, 316, 430, but a big-time thumper at the catcher position, and he's honestly cheap at 36, affordable at 28. You can play him and Olsen in the same lineup, first base util on FanDuel, no problem. 34.29 for Michael Harris, another underperformer so far this year. 300 xWOBA, 57 WRC plus are not overly encouraging. Neither is the premium contact. It's not a lot to see with Michael Harris either. Eli White at 3,000, a talented guy, but there's just not a lot of underlying right now this season to support the upside. Previous seasons, there's tons. Just depends on what you want to have faith in right now. Eli White at 3,000, 2,300, 3 home runs, 5 steals, and 165 chances. Otherwise, pretty mediocre. Nick Allen, here for defense. Schwellenbach, the pitcher that we actually want to talk about from this game. One of the top 2 total projections on the board. One of the top priced pitchers, or the most expensive pitcher, I believe, on the slate. A couple bucks more than Brian Wu on both sites. More challenging matchup for him for sure. Lower strikeout opponent than Wu will be facing. But Schwelly's capable of finding some. 13.5% swinging strike rate, a 30.1% CSW so far this season. Striking out 24% against a 4.2% walk rate over 96 2/3 in 15 starts. Tremendous rating by Stuff Plus. 3.26 ERA against an even better 2.96 xFIP, a sub 3 xFIP. Tremendous. 7.9 degree average launch, so he's keeping the ball in the yard mostly. A few mistakes have traveled out. 3.13% home run rate. That's fine. Totally manageable. But not necessarily even reflective of the medium hard hit, the medium exit velo, but a good barrel rate, good launch angle managed. Has more upside, I would say, and this kind of agrees with going forward. On a larger slate at that price, where you've got other guys in the 10s, he would be really appealing here. Today, he's kind of maybe the guy that either comes in lower owned than he ought to be because of that high price, or the guy that you just want to dance around where the field's getting there and you have some but undercut. I don't know if I lean Mets bats, but I think they have enough of a neutralizing effect against his ceiling, maybe, is the case. And it's kind of the same with him against them. That's why I don't know that I lean there. You can see that in the sub 4 Vegas total. Last time out for Schwelly, 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, allowed 2 home runs. That was against this Mets team. Again, not that we're not talking about it because it was the Mets. It just happens to be the last game. Gave up 4 earned runs on 6 hits in that game. Game before that, 9 innings, a complete game, struck out 9, walked none. Did allow a home run, 2 earned runs on 5 hits. That was at the Brewers. Just tremendous depth of start. Went 6 in the 2 starts prior to those 2, and then had a stretch of 7 inning starts for 3 straight games. Gave up a few runs in each of those games, or 2 runs in 2 of them, 4 runs in 1 of them. One of them had an 11 strikeout total. He struck out 11 in back-to-back games against the Pods and the Red Sox on May 25th and 31st. Whew. 8 and 9 strikeouts in the last 2. So the K form has kind of come on. There was a stretch there where he wasn't really striking guys out. It was like mid-April through mid-May, but it's really kind of come on in 4 of the last 5. The middle one, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks against the Giants. Kind of a letdown spot. Gave up 3 earned. I think we had him that day. 6 hits. Little bit of a letdown in that one, but overall, tremendous. Ceiling, significant. So you're very much wanting to play him. It really rides on. Let's take a look. Let me reload what the ownership looks like. It's really going to come down to this. Again, given the matchup, I just wish it was a slate where we had more expensive options on the board. Yeah, 3rd highest and very close to the top 2 guys on projected ownership on FanDuel. It's probably going to be the same on DK. Excuse me. Same thing. There is a more significant offset, and this isn't weird, on the DraftKings slate for the top-owned pitcher. But Schwellenbach is number 3 and right next to number 2 on the DraftKings ownership as well. So he's going to be significantly owned, and justifiably so. Again, he is tremendous. He is as good as he looks. But given the way the slate falls, and given that chunk of popularity, I think there is at least an argument to be made for taking a little bit of an undercut to the field. You know, let's say if he was going to come in at 20% owned, maybe just more than half that. I didn't want to say half it. I don't want to say 10% against 20, but maybe a few more lineups than half, and have a fairly significant chunk, but still undercut the field. In one lineup, I think I might go a different direction. I prefer Wu, like I've already said, and he projects better for us. There's an argument to be made to just go double pay down or like mid. So, really sticky spot with Schwelle there. The Mets against, like I said, not really pushing the upside. Low implied total. We've got some phenomenal bats and some guys that probably, again, it's a neutralizing factor in both directions here. Francisco Lindor, 55-36 at shortstop. He's hit 16 homers. He's stolen 13 bases, creating runs 29% better than average, striking out just 18%, walking 8.1. Yeah, let's see. And the walks are less significant against somebody like Schwellenbach, who doesn't walk very many hitters, but low strikeout, sub 20% strikeout from a superstar. Brandon Nimmo, who is not a superstar, but the numbers are kind of coming around in the slash line to reflect the quality of contact now. All of a sudden, you look at Brandon Nimmo, 254, 316, 467. He's got a 214 ISO, the 15 home runs. The power, the premium contact have been there all along. He was just kind of scuffling in the back of the baseball card triple slash, and that's kind of normalized now. Even the on base is climbing. The XWOB at 346, nearly an 11% barrel, 50+% hard hits. It's a tremendous option, and he strikes out at just 19.1%. That's down over the last 2 seasons. So are his walks. If he can push the walks and keep the strikeouts where they are, he becomes more and more interesting very quickly. If he gets back to 11, 12% walks, pushes the on base even further, he becomes essentially a star among those stars up at the top. You take advantage now because Nimmo's only 4,100, 3,100. Not really the great day to do it, given the matchup against Schwelly. But if you're going Mets, include Brandon Nimmo. 54-38 for Soto seems perfectly reasonable to me. 16 home runs, getting on at a 392 clip. He's got a 456 xWOBA. 15.5% barrels, 56% hard hits. Even in a bad season, he's creating runs 46% better than average. Can be in my lineup any day against any pitcher in baseball. Pete Alonso, 52-36, 18 home runs on the season, a 266 ISO. Monster start to the year. And went through a little bit of like doldrums. He's come on with a few home runs. 163 WRC plus overall for the season, making massive contact. Jeff McNeil, put the ball in play type hitter and see what happens. He's all right because he's cheap and he fits at second base or just anonymously in the outfield. But he's, as an outfielder, he's just another guy. At second base, maybe because of some correlated scoring, but he's not really in the right spot in the lineup to capitalize on having those superstars in the lineup because they all hit in front of him. Tyrone Taylor, 32-24, mix and match quality outfielder. Not really getting the fantasy output that we're hoping for out of Taylor. 9 stolen bases is all right, but sub 300 on base, 79 WRC plus. Jared Young has been interesting for some premium contact, 12.5% barrels in his 40 plate appearances. He has hit 3 home runs, 270 ISO. Incredibly small sample. You hope for some improvement and some dip in the strikeout, maybe a few more walks along the way. But this is kind of who he's supposed to be, just a guy who can put good wood on the ball, but also has some flaws. Mix and match quality at first base. You're obviously not taking him that often instead of Pete Alonso. Luis Torrens, Brett Beatty, mix and match quality down the bottom of the lineup. Beatty has 8 home runs and 182 chances and a 190 ISO. Everything else about his slash line pretty much sucks and an 84 WRC plus, but major premium contact upside. Very cheap, fits in at second base on both sides. Not uninteresting as not necessarily a wraparound play, but maybe if you're getting like cheap with Jeff McNeil, you can include Jeff Beatty as the most likely guy in this stretch to drive Jeff McNeil in. You could also throw Luis Torrens into that mix because he's very cheap at 2,800 at catcher, and he's made fantastic contact over his 142 plate appearances that has resulted in essentially nothing as far as run creation or power output or extra base hits. I'm not really sure where these have gone, but it hasn't been to here because you're just not seeing them. But given the contact, again, if you're chasing like the Jeff McNeil share, let's say you're leaving, you're changing this up a little bit and trying to get it as cheap as possible. And you go like, all right, shortstop, Nimmo. You do it a really warped way and go like McNeil, Jared Young, Luis Torrens, but that's not what you want to do. That gets you down to 37-40 for a stack that does still include Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo up top. But I'm looking to get 3 of these top guys and then use 2 from down there. So let's say we go, I'll leave Soto out. I'll go with the cheaper Alonso at first because I don't want to have to take Jared Young in that equation. And then we just grab those 2. So I've got a direct wraparound, not that either Luis Torrens or Brett Beatty are likely candidates to reset the table for Lindor and Nimmo, but at least they're there in the later plate appearances. But you do, I forgot that leaves out McNeil, though. That was the whole point. All right, so I only got 1 of these guys. Never mind. All over the place today. All right, so same concept like that. And in that case, I would probably take Torrens. Now that I'm thinking it through, because I don't want either of these guys. I don't want him in the outfield as much. I don't want him at third base as much. So I'm looking to capitalize on second base with that spot. So, all right, for the corrected version, which includes Lindor, Nimmo, Alonso, McNeil, and Luis Torrens, 42-20 apiece. Again, you're targeting an excellent pitcher, but those are some very good bats to do it with up at the top, and they get cheap with some capability down the bottom. And you could use the Beatty spot if you wanted to go that direction instead of Torrens. Just depends on where you want to use them. And obviously, it's 4,400 a piece. Obviously, you can use Soto instead of Alonso, mix it up with Jared Young. There's a lot of different ways to get kind of interesting with that Met stack price-wise. And even if you want just the direct top, that's still only $47.40. Obviously, that's a relatively high price, but it's workable on a slate with this cheap pitching. Workable. Braves bats, Schwellenbach, Mets bats. Really don't think you should play Paul Blackburn. OMG father calling out, pouring one out for Rip Little Acuna. Yep. Luis Angel sent down. XX Cubs says, scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate leaving $6,500 Aaron Judge out of the Yankee stack and hope he walks and the others do the damage? It depends, as you probably knew I was going to say, on what goes into the stack and what it's stacked with and what your pitching looks like. So it's more a full lineup question for sure. It's not the craziest thing in the world. It's obviously painful from a like, oh man, I really want to put Aaron Judge in here and he's the best bat in the universe. But like, yeah, to take $2,000 of salary as a discount and go from him, and then like instead of him as your fifth bat, you're using, I'll put Paul Goldschmidt at first against a mid-grade lefty. Yeah, fine. It's not a mistake to have some stacks like that. If I'm building one, it's very difficult to say that it's okay to skip Aaron Judge. It is. He's going to be probably the most popular hitter on the slate too. So, I mean, there's that angle. So it's fine to skip him. But like scale of 1 to 10, how much do I hate it? Like an 8. But yeah, I mean, DFS, there's a lot of good reasons that you can gin up to leave Aaron Judge out of that lineup. As mentioned, really like Brian Wu here. He's going to be popular too. We've got both of these. Get the Mariners going. I also like the Mariners bats and maybe some little bump to the, hopefully, I have the Twins already, to the win potential. Mariners drawing a 4.52 implied total against Bailey Ober. Ober checking in with a 4.54 ERA and a 4.82 xFIP, 17.8% strikeout rate. 6% walks is fine, 12.1% swinging is fine, but a 1.40 whip is not. These numbers are not. Neither is the premium contact this season. 23.3 degree average launch, extreme fly ball pitcher, allowing a 9.9% barrel, 89.8 miles an hour of exit velo, both of which you'll note are just a sliver, just a minor decimal point change, a rounding error below our thresholds and above our threshold for a hard hit rate so far, resulting in 4% home runs that honestly could be even higher. Last year, it was 3.8% home runs, but it was more managed, slightly lower launch, managed hard hit and exit velo very well. Barrels were mixed, but only a 3.81, which is still high. Year before, same exact 3.81% on similar kind of premium contact, but again, was managing exit velo and hard hit a little bit better. Definitely mistakes have been made by Bailey Ober, one of his worst seasons in the last few. Making me happier and happier that I screwed up that waiver claim earlier in the season. Turns out, from that screwed up waiver claim that I definitely screwed up, we have Joe Adele, and Bailey Ober's not good. Kind of works. 5 2/3 last time out, gave up 4 earned runs to the Reds at Cincinnati. 7 earned runs to Texas in a home game, 4 2/3. In that one, faced 26 Rangers, gave up 7 runs, struck out 3, walked 6, allowed 4 home runs. Your classic Bailey Ober meltdown 2 starts ago. 5 earned runs over 7 against the Blue Jays. 3 starts back, has been really bad over this stretch. Had been more manageable throughout the beginning of the season after his first start of the season, which was an 8-run disaster. Another classic Bailey Ober meltdown. But between the here and there meltdowns and just some generally gettable power for some DFS upside, even if they don't go out and put 12 runs on him, there is some obvious power lurking here in this Mariners lineup. At 96 on both sides, Brian Wu projects at the very top of the board. He's slightly cheaper than his next closest guy, which is Schwelly. Slightly lower strikeout rate at 22.3%, but against an excellent 4% walk rate, a sub-1 whip, 3.12 ERA, but a little bit higher on the xFIP, 3.66 xFIP, 9.4%, 9.5% barrels, but managing hard hits, managing exit velo, mid kind of 14.6 degree average launch, not exactly low, and somebody you can definitely hit a home run against, as evidenced by a 3.14 home run rate against. Last year, it was just under 3% on very similar contact, but a halved barrel rate. So that'll be interesting to watch going through the season. Does he continue to chip away at that barrel rate, keep home runs down and bring that number down a little bit? Or is it just kind of normalization and guys are barreling him a little bit more now that there's more of a book on him and so on and so forth? So we'll see where that goes. But overall, tremendous option today, going up against the Twins lineup that has some strikeout in it. Has a few guys that avoid strikeout very effectively that help with the overall average, but have some very gettable guys. Even their star, Byron Buxton, 26.7 this year, 25.5 last year, 31.4 the year before. Matt Wallner, with all his premium contact ability, nearly a 30% strikeout rate. Does draw some walks. Last year, he was 36.4% strikeouts, year before 31.5. So technically, he's improved at 29.1 this year, but also wildly inconsistent, just a ton of power right now. Could develop into a more interesting bat as time goes on. Brooks Lee, 28-26, 274, 309, 402. Mediocre as far as the slash line goes, an underwhelming 296 xWOBA, 99 WRC+. Just kind of cheap in the 3 spot. He's effective enough, especially given the middle infield option at second base on both sites. You can definitely play him there. I like him less at third, less at short, but he's a mixer in this lineup. Buxton's absolutely in my stack, by the way, if I'm stacking against Brian Wu. 56-36 for Buxton, 17 home runs, 13 steals. Again, he is their star, but he could lead to a few Ks as well for Wu on the wrong day for Buxton. Larnach at just 38, 3,000, 10 home runs for him on the season, 7.04 in the model today. Could be the guy that gets to Wu. Lefty bat, 45.1% hard hits, 7.3% barrels. Similar numbers as far as the premium contact. It's exactly the same as last year, but he's lost barrel rate each of the last 2 seasons there. How many plate appearances was that in 23? 400 last year. It's just 212 plate appearances in 23. Hit 8 home runs, had a 202 ISO in that stretch. I was just curious if that higher number was partly artificial, and it probably is. But this is probably the reality. We're probably more a 10% barrel expectation, and he's down at 7 this year. Just another thing ongoing to watch, but he's priced that way. 38, 3,000. Very fair pricing. Carlos Correa, kind of cheap from my mind. The barrels are still down. 42.2% hard hits is slightly off the mark. 5 home runs on the board is disappointing. So is the 120 WRC plus and the 120 ISO and the 91 WRC plus. 257, 302, 378 is not where I want him and is not where I was expecting him, but it's also non-tragic. It's not like he's at the Mendoza line. It's not like he's never on base. He's not stealing any bases. His run creation is obviously off the mark. There are some things to dislike about what's going on there. But a 321 xWOBA, again, is kind of stable. 19.4% strikeout, a little bit higher, and the walks are a little bit lower. But if that can renormalize, we can get a little bit more on base. We'd probably get our run creation back to the average. Then it comes down to, can he find a few more barrels in the second half and kind of rescue this season? He's not as lost as it might seem. Like maybe he's lost at sea, but he's got the raft. He's got a flare gun. There's plenty of flares. He's got food. There's a lot going on in his life raft right now. Ty France, 32-28, 6 home runs. Pretty decent season. A Ty France kind of season. 266, 329, 380. Just a 113 ISO, despite some good bat on ball. Kind of an outlier difference there. He capitalized with the 6 homers, but isn't really finding extra base hits given the premium contact. But an effective enough year, a 103 WRC plus, the 353 xWOBA under the covers is really interesting, reflective of both that contact and his just ability to put the ball in play consistently. Low strikeout, low walk this year, so a lot of well-struck balls in play. Wouldn't shock to see Ty France, on any given slate, have a very successful day, but also just put together a consistent stretch and push these numbers a little bit. Cody Clemens let us down as the home run pick the other day, unless I'm mistaken. 7 home runs on the board this season. That was, I think, yesterday, I want to say. But a 12.8% barrel rate, 51.2% hard hits. There is real power there. He's hit 7 homers in 129 plate appearances, has a 250 ISO, has shown little flashes of power. This is what he's supposed to do. He's got second base eligibility for 29-25. You're just throwing him into the grinder against Brian Wu, who is typically at least difficult to homer against. So I don't love the option. You're probably dealing with strikeouts, but he's been limiting strikeouts more effectively this year so far in the small sample. Just 21-7 versus 24 last year, 27 the year before. Harrison Bader and Christian Vasquez. Bader's a mix and match outfielder. He's like the league replacement outfielder guy. He's fine in any given lineup. He can barrel a ball from time to time, hit you a homer, steal you a base, maybe some correlated scoring. He's been good with the on base in 119 WRC plus this year, but kind of deceptively so. 304 xWOBA, just a 166 ISO. 10.9% barrels, but only a 40.9% hard hit. This is just who Bader is. He's cheap, so as long as he's not priced up, you can always drop him into a lineup if you need to get cheap while extending a stack, but he's not exactly appealing. Vasquez is just kind of filling the catcher spot. Going back to the Mariners side, which is the side I actually prefer. JP Crawford, very decent way to fill shortstop for an inoffensive price, 3,800, 3,100. He's got a 5.97 in the home run model today. It comes on not very many barrels, not many hard hits. Both those numbers slightly reduced from last year, but he's getting on base like crazy again this year. 407 on base right now. He's just an extremely good leadoff man and an extremely good table setter for the power bats that lurk immediately behind him in this lineup. 142 WRC plus over 314 plate appearances should not be ignored. And he has hit 6 home runs. He's stolen 5 bases. The home runs are not uncharacteristic. 2 years ago when he was very good, he hit 19. He was getting on at a 380 clip. He created runs at a 134 WRC plus, but he wasn't really running despite being at first base and leading off all the time. This year, he's not, I wouldn't say really running, but at least he's stolen, more than twice as many bags as he did that year. So it makes him slightly more dynamic and interesting. What he's not giving us is the true power output. The 6 home runs are nice, but they're not really reflective of the power bat that he was 2 years ago. 107 ISO, and again, diminished premium contact. But I think he's just doing more interesting things now, even without the power. So just as a table setter for those prices at short, he can easily be in the lineup. Julio Rodriguez, 5,031, 10 homers, 12 steals. Mediocre slash line at 252, 314, 400, but should rise at 340 xWOBA tells us that, a 107 WRC plus. Okay, premium contact. The barrels obviously need to climb. The hard hits need to climb, but these are non-tragic numbers on their own. It's low strikeout and actually improved the strikeout so far over the last 2 years. Knock on wood, that stays the same. Walks are medium as they've been. He could stand to push that and gain some on base. Cal Raleigh's just been the best home run hitter in baseball this year. 31 home runs before the end of June. Ridiculous. Broke Johnny Bench's home run record as a catcher for home runs before the halfway point the other day. 6,4,200. He's got a 14.04 in the home run model, though, against the contact that Bailey Ober's given up. Wouldn't shock me to see another monster day out of Cal. He's another one that it's just like, all right, it's a monster. That price is a big meatball in the heart of this lineup. These guys are all cheap around him, though. Similar to the Yanks all around Aaron Judge. Everybody's affordable, so it helps you average that price down across a full stack where you're less concerned about it. It's more concerning around like the popularity, just the obviousness of the bat and the guy that's going to be in every common stack of Mariners, every common stack of Yankees. So you can have that conversation very realistically about Cal Raleigh, but I want him in the majority of Mariners stacks. It's difficult to justify it without, other than kind of just spitballing reasons around some ownership, some leverage theory. Jorge Polanco, Randy Arozarena, Luke Raley, 3 very interesting hitters following Cal Raleigh. Stay with me here. You've got major barrel rates on all 3 of those guys. Polanco slipped a little bit, but realistically, high barrel rates on all 3 of those guys. It's a small sample still for Luke Raley, but you can look back over the last 2 seasons and see that it's very real. Randy Arozarena just always hit the ball pretty hard. He's hit 8 home runs, stolen 14 bases. Polanco's got 11. Had a very, very hot stretch, cooled off a little bit, but is kind of maintaining overall 355 xWOBA, 118 WRC plus, a 197 ISO. You could argue that could be a couple points higher. Randy Arozarena could definitely be a few points higher. 10.4% barrels, 49.2% hard hits, resulting in just 8 home runs and a 166 ISO. 347 xWOBA under the covers, a 125 WRC plus, in spite of a lack of some results because he's getting on base like crazy. He's stealing bases, making things happen. And Raley's just cheap at 35.28 for his power upside. Just 2 home runs in the 92 plate appearances, been absent for most of the season with an injury. Last year in 455 chances, 22 home runs, 11 steals. Year before in 406, 19 homers, 14 steals. Not only does he hit home runs, he steals bases. He is a very interesting fantasy player, and he probably gets overlooked from time to time from people building with the Mariners today. And I think on the board in general, the Mariners probably get overlooked because I think people are going to want to use Bailey Ober just from the name recognition alone at 76, 75. I feel like he gets a few clicks. Luke Raley is your home run pick of the day. 9.29 in the home run model today. Dominic Canzone makes a match quality bet. He has put good one on the ball over the last couple of seasons. He hasn't struck out much in his 38 plate appearances so far. 3 home runs on the board in a quick awful hurry here. Mix and match again in the outfield, 25-27. Inoffensively priced, 7.89 realistically in the home run model. Williamson and Young, kind of mix and matchy type pieces. Neither guy has been overly successful in the show so far. Mariners bet, Brian Wu. Mariners bats, Twins bats, Bailey Ober. I would bury Bailey Ober a little bit. What's his ownership looking like? Let me see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe no. It's not obnoxiously high because there's just a big plateau of ownership the way they projected it. But he's one of the higher guys on that plateau, and I would expect that he draws a little bit more attention maybe than what he's projected for here. Let's see what it looks like on the DK where it's probably more important. Yeah, into the mid double digits ownership projection for Ober on DK. That it makes me kind of intrigued by those Mariners bats in addition to just what I'm seeing, power wise, baseball wise, and DFS upside wise. I like this spot. They also fit together pretty well with some of the big teams. Ooh, geez, 449. Got to pick up the pace here. D-backs and the White Sox, as mentioned earlier in the show. Colin Sutherland says Shohei Ohtani exists. He certainly does. He's probably the second best hitter in baseball. BB Slayer saying, should have listened to you guys about Strider the other day. Hey, that's why they play the games, man. It's, it was looking good, but you had your reasons, and there were some justifiable reasons, or there was some justification in what you were saying about him coming back from the injury. Had a good day. He didn't crush that price, though. Like, he had a good day, had the best day on the slate in just raw total. But against that price, it was a few points shy of, honestly, where I wanted him. Beyond the rabbit hole, Brooksley had 4 hits yesterday that do not matter today. Brooksley is underperforming his talent, I would say. I think that's fair overall. In what's a significant sample year? His most significant sample in the minors was 2023, 567 plate appearances, 400 of which, 399 of which came in AA, 168 AAA. He slashed 275, 347, 461, had a 186 ISO, 16% strikeout, 9.9% walk, 16 home runs and 7 steals, scored some runs, drove some in. That's the kind of player. He's an interesting kid. We just haven't really seen him that effective at this level. You know, 274, 309, 402. It's not a bad slash line. He's hitting for a little bit of average. 7 home runs. Just a 128 ISO, 296 xWOB, I think, is the concerning thing. Limited strikeouts, but limited walks. Not great premium contact. I think he's just more of a good upside average BABIP type guy in the show. I don't know that we see power really come around. I think he dips more back into that kind of territory. But he's been effective. I mean, this isn't a bad stretch. 99 WRC plus, though. But yeah, as I was kind of referring to or alluding to with that guy in his momentum model, absolutely nothing about what anybody did yesterday or in the last 3 games. None of that matters. It's literally like seeing a blackjack results thing and saying like, oh, 5 reds in a row. That must mean that this next one is going to be this. It just does not work that way. They're independent samples. Nothing about hitting a home run against Patrick Corbin on a windy day at Wrigley Field has any bearing on hitting a home run against Jacob deGrom on a cool rainy day in Texas. It just doesn't work that way. So same deal with guy 4 hits yesterday. Momentum, hot. Does it exist? Probably. Like, does luck exist? Are people more fortunate than others? Or is it just a measure of, how we express things of math and the results of probability across a limited human timeline? Same kind of thing. So it's backward looking. It's just, yes, those things happened. Doesn't mean anything's going to happen today. For him, independently, in ways we can't quantify, does it mean he's heating up, finding it at the major league level, turning into a better hitter? It all could, and we will discover that in the future, and we'll see it before we get there in the underlying numbers as they rise. But any immediate last couple days, doesn't matter at all. That's why we look at these large samples. That's why we include previous seasons until we get full samples from current year. Anyway, most of you guys already know that. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for the more likes we get, the fewer lectures you'll get. Or maybe the more lectures you get. I don't know. Tell me what you like. Lecture yes, lecture no. Got the Diamondbacks lineup in. And we've got the White Sox lineup in. White Sox seeing some minor improvement with some decent WRC plus, some decent run creation results at the top of the lineup in the last month and change. But you're also seeing a little bit of a dip now. Chase Meadwell all the way down to 268, 353, 323. Still getting on base at an effective clip, but he's striking out slightly more in recent weeks. The walk rate is still strong, but he doesn't really hit the ball that hard. 9 stolen bases, down to a 97 WRC plus, was one of their better performers in his first 150 or so plate appearances. So he's taking kind of a dip, 3,000, 2,600, mix and match quality at best if you're going White Sox against Eduardo Rodriguez. It is a lefty pitcher. They are fairly righty heavy among their more interesting bats, so that's something to throw into the mix. But Erod is more than talented enough to get through this team. He's been okay in spots. 5.93 ERA across his 12 starts, his 60 2/3, but a 4.08 xFIP, a 10.2% swinging, a 22.9% strikeout against 7.9% walks. Where he's been really sparkling is in the limiting of barrels, hard hits, and exit velo, but it hasn't really helped him in home runs. Typical Erod, he has bounced back, results that bounce off one another in weird ways most of the time, a 3.93% home run rate. So most of the mistakes he's made have traveled up and over the wall. 91 rating by Stuff Plus. If you need another negative, 25.7% CSW. And again, that 5.93 ERA on the surface. Last time out, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, just 1 earned run on 6 hits over 4 2/3. That was at Toronto. Obviously not a good game. Gave up a home run. He's given up a home run in each of his last 3. Struck out 5, went 6 1/3 against Seattle. 2 earned runs on 6 hits. Struck out 5, walked just 1. Not a bad day. Went 5, 2 earned runs on 6 hits. Noticing a theme. Struck out just 3, walked 0, 1 home run allowed. That was at the Reds. Not a bad start. Not a good one. 2 bad days against the Giants and the Dodgers. This is going back before he was hurt in mid-May. Had a 10 strikeout game against the Phillies, which was probably it was one of his more interesting starts of the year. It's a weird one, though. 10 strikeouts, 4 walks, give up a home run, 3 earned, 4 runs allowed on 5 hits over 5 1/3. Had a 9 strikeout game where he was better but that was against Miami, and then had a 12 strikeout game over just 5 innings way back at the beginning of the year. But it's another Erod day. He gave up 4 earned runs in that game. Walked just 1, no home run allowed. He's a frustrating guy to roster. Would not shock me at all if the White Sox put 2-3 runs on him here, maybe 4. But also would not shock me if he came away with 9 strikeouts here. 25.9% overall strikeout rate. Erod can exploit that for sure. He projects out well. He projects out very well for the money. And he's got a little bit of ceiling. He's also got a visible basement, though. You're somewhat standing on that trap door, just waiting for it to open up with Erod any given slate where you roster him. 4.22 implied total with a terrible White Sox team kind of tells you that. So continuing on with the Sox, Austin Slater, who sees most of his opportunities against lefties as a platoon option, a good barrel rate, a good hard hit in a very small sample, 2 home runs, but a mediocre, mix and match quality journeyman reserve player type guy. Miguel Vargas, 3,000, 2,800, has 10 home runs, but kind of scuffling overall as far as that slash line goes. The 196 ISO is interesting. The 114 WRC plus is obviously interesting and reflective of some of the premium contact we've seen. It's been a big uptick in premium contact year over year. He's also cut strikeout rate pretty dramatically. Is it a medium sample that's already starting to cool, or is it a legitimate uptick for a kid who once upon a time was thought of as somewhat talented? I think it's probably the former. I think it's probably more of a little bit of a extended outlier stretch, but we'll see where it goes. If you're playing White Sox, certainly belongs in your lineups because he's been one of their better bats and is one of their more viable bats, even if he's the lesser version of himself. Edgar Quero, 25-23, reasonable slash line over 174, 269, 338, 308. Just an 87 WRC plus because, partly this lineup just, there's not a lot of opportunity for run creation, period. It hasn't barreled the ball, but a 46.8% hard hit, 8.6% walk against 19% strikeout. Lou Bob's down to just 35-29. Very, very cheap. He's hit 7 homers. He's stolen 22 bases, just a 119 ISO, just a 308 XWOB, a 59 WRC plus. Needs to get out of Chicago or send him to the other side of Chicago. Just give him to the other team. Lennon Sosa, 24-23, capable of hitting the ball hard. 42.9% hard hit rate. He's hit 4 home runs, decent slash line. Not great on base. Some success from hard hit balls that have dropped in for him overall. But he's very cheap. I like him best at second base, but mix and match across positions. Kyle Teal, another catcher in this confirmed lineup, 27-24. Hasn't seen much success as a call-up, one of their top prospects. Is getting on at a 366 clip, at least over his 41 opportunities. Is a monster walk rate, but his strikeout rate is double that. Michael A. putting good wood on the ball, 12.2% barrels, 46.3% hard hits, hiding down here where we always like to find him against a lefty and a mediocre lefty at that. 4 home runs, 7 steals from Michael A. and 152 chances. He's down there doing Michael A. kind of things. 24-25 is not a bad price. He's a strong mixer if I'm going White Sox already. If I just want a crazy, sneaky one-off, I can use Michael A. a couple times across 150. He's in no way a priority bat, but it wouldn't stun me if he had a decent day against E-Rod here. As I was getting at before, Shane Smith having an impact on those Diamondbacks home run marks. You've also got no Corbin Carroll in the lineup for the D-backs again today. 488 implied total still puts them among the leaders as far as Vegas total. They project out very well as far as the overall fantasy projections in spite of the impact that Smith is having on home run. He's given up just a 5.8% barrel, 44.2% hard hits, and 90 miles an hour of exit velo. Both of these, this is at the threshold. That's over the threshold. It's come on a 12.5 degree average launch. That's not exactly, negative. Any of these guys that keep things to negative average launch. So it's not necessarily an ongoing attribute. It might just be that he's missed a bunch of barrels along the way in 14 starts. But he's got very good swinging strike stuff, which kind of supports the idea that he could continue to miss those barrels. 12% swinging strike rate is pretty tremendous. 26.4% CSW doesn't really reflect that quality. 9.7% walk explains away some of the CSW. 21.3% strikeout, not really putting hitters away as much as he ought to with that swinging strike rate. But I think that is what is having an impact on the quality of batted ball against him to a degree. Unfortunately for him, the Diamondbacks are excellent at drawing walks. They're excellent at getting on base. They're just a good lineup. A lot of quality on the other side. I think we still lean into the Diamondbacks here, but maybe it is a day where they're more apt to be a secondary stack source of one-offs. I think it might be a day to maybe temper expectations about their power output. Not necessarily their run correlated scoring sequencing output, though. It is a warm day in Chicago, by the way. Wind blowing across the field, apparently. Adaldo Perdomo, 43-33. Price is coming way down on the DraftKings side. FanDuel, that's still aggressive average price. 256, 350, 408 overall. In the leadoff spot, he's a great table setter. but I kind of prefer JP Crawford if I'm just taking a shortstop off the top who I'm looking to get on base. I think I like him with the sneakiness of that Mariners lineup and the lower pricing overall of that Mariners lineup. These Diamondbacks are not cheap. 111 WRC plus this season out of Perdomo. Excellent at getting on base. Somebody who could help exploit Shane Smith by just drawing a walk, getting to first base a couple of times. Very low strikeout, high walk. Ketel Marte, very low strikeout, very high walk, 13-2 strikeout, 14-2 walk. Over 219 plate appearances. He's just putting up star caliber numbers. 310, 420, 582, 272 ISO, 13 homers, monster barrel rate. Pavin Smith, 224 excellent plate appearances, 384 on base percentage, a 331 underlying xWOBA. Base creator runs 32% better than average by WRC plus. Strikes out a fair amount, 31.3% strikeout, but against a 16.5% walk, that's perfectly fine. He's made a good contact, 11.1% barrel, 45.3% hard hit. He's seen more extra base hit success, 177 ISO, but only 6 home runs. Could turn on the power at any time, though, as far as capitalizing on some home run upside. Josh Naylor at 48-34. Another tremendous season out of him. 303, 358, 465, a 354 underlying xWOBA, 9 homers, 10 steals. The 162 ISO may be a little bit underwhelming, but overall, this season's been tremendous, and he's got more to give in that department. He also, another guy, doesn't strike out, draws his walks. Eugenio Suarez always strikes out, but mashes baseballs. He's got 25 home runs, a 318 ISO. Just play him. 14.6% barrels, 51.2% hard hits. You don't worry about the strikeout and the lack of walks with him just because of the extreme nature of the power upside. 47 is not a bad price to find him on DraftKings. 39, more expensive on FanDuel, but easily worth it if you're going here. Lourdes Gurriel at 3,000. Cheap for his talent, 10 home runs. Solid slash line at 258, 306, 425. Needs to deliver a little bit more BABIP and succeed the way that he used to for a little bit more on base, but it's not been a bad season. He's right at 100 on WRC plus. Randall Grichuk can put good wood on the ball as well. 11.5% barrels, 51.7% hard hits with 3 home runs on the board, a 191 ISO. Another guy who's more extra base hit oriented, but multiple 20 home runs. Is it multiple home runs or is it just one with 20 home runs? I think we've looked this up before. I have a habit of saying multiple. Yeah, it's multiple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons of more than 20 home runs. One of them got over 31 home runs back in 2019. It's been a little bit of a dip over the last couple of seasons as he's aged into his early 30s, but still a really talented righty who is very cheap in the outfield. Slightly better than just another outfielder, honestly. And again, even with a little bit of limitation for potential home run upside, this kind of plays right into what Randall Grichuk does well. What Pavin Smith does well. As far as like, we might not necessarily be looking at the home run, but we've got a lot of opportunity to just hit the ball hard, drive in some of these guys who are on base ahead of us. And that goes up and down this lineup. Alec Thomas, 32-26. Is that an okay year? 82 WRC plus is underwhelming. Maybe it's just on the average front and the run scored. Yeah, pretty underwhelming at a 112 ISO, 315 xWOBA, 3 homers, 4 steals. The 295 on base is what caught me out there. I thought he was a little bit better as I started that sentence for on base results. Must come down a little bit. 8.2% barrels, 42.2% hard hits across the 211 plate appearances. Kind of reflective of the contact from last year. Any given slate upside, but 24.2% strikeouts against just 4.3% walks this year is up from last year. Jose Herrera in the bottom spot, pretty empty, 113 plate appearances so far. Diamondbacks bats, Erod. White Sox bats. Shane Smith is just a dart, and he's not really priced like a dart. 84, 83. I see limited DFS appeal there. I think he's playable, but it feels more like a why would you when you've got probably better upside from worse pitchers in better spots. Ashcraft, kind of a no here. 11 2/3, 1.54 ERA, but a 4.41 xFIP, a 20.4% strikeout, but 12.2% walks. As I said at the beginning of the show, was stretched out in AAA, but that only lasted, he got called up on or around between May 21st and 26th, put it that way. Since he got called up on the 26th of May, he's made, where's the He's made a handful of appearances. 7, it looks like, appearances. All multi-inning relief, or mostly multi-inning relief, but has not exceeded 3 innings, and that's what he pitched in the first game that he came up for. That was 3 innings against the Diamondbacks. 1 strikeout, 1 walk, faced 12 hitters, was pretty good. 2 hits, no runs. But that was the deepest he's gone in the show. Other than that one, it's been maximum 2 innings. I gave him 3. I think that's the most we get. 6,000, 5,500 feels like a mismatch. I don't think you need to go to Braxton Ashcraft. Brewers drawing a 4.86 implied total. He probably doesn't get through unscathed even for the limited innings he pitches. Chad Patrick, crazy popular option on both sites, 8,600, 7,900 against one of the most, if not the most targetable lineup in baseball for fantasy success on the opposing mound. 3.50 ERA, a 4.21 xFIP, 22.5% strikeouts, 7.7% walks. He has given up a little bit of premium contact, hard hit, 41.6 is over the threshold, exit velo just beneath it, and it is on a significant fly ball trajectory. He's just managed to miss some barrels. Comes with a 10% swinging strike rate, but just a 23.9% CSW, not really putting hitters away. He's kind of in the middle. I think this is bolstered more by the opponent than it is by him necessarily. But a 104 mark by Stuff Plus plays fairly well if you just need kind of a cheap tiebreak for, do I want to go there, do I not? 2 games back against the Braves, struck out 8, walked 3, gave up 2 home runs, 5 earned on 7 hits over 5 innings. Last time out against the Cubs at Wrigley, 4 earned runs on 6 hits, struck out 5, walked 2. Obviously, neither of these teams are the Pirates. He's had a strong stretch of opponents, really. Cubs, Braves, Padres, Phillies, Boston, Baltimore, Twins, Rays, Astros. You got to go all the way back to May 1st. He faced the White Sox to find a weak opponent. 4 strikeouts, no walks in that game, 3 earned on 6 hits over 5 2/3. Held his own, though. I mean, in that strong stretch of opponents, the last 2 games that I read off just then were the 2 weakest. He had a 6-inning start, gave up 1 earned against the Pods, 6 innings, 2 earned against the Phils, struck out 6 in both those games. Struck out 6 Red Sox, only went 4 2/3, but kept them off the board for runs. 7 strikeouts over 4 2/3 against the Orioles. Gave up just 1 earned on 4 hits. So plenty of justification for playing Chad Patrick, but it just might be a spot that, given cheaper options and honestly just as much upside for the Erods and so on of the world, I can see plenty of ways to undercut Chad Patrick, especially at 86 on DraftKings. He's probably a more interesting FanDuel pitcher at 79 than he is at DraftKings because you can just kind of walk into that ownership on FanDuel and not really worry about it as much. See, we got these lineups. We do. Oops. While we're pasting these in, take a second, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Both those things really do help. Subscribing actually helps slightly more. I will stop talking about that when we get to 1,000 subscribers. I'll mention every now and then, like, hit the subscribe button, but like actually hitting that 1,000 mark. And again, it just kind of really pissed me off the other day that guy, I'll be nice, just reading the last 3 days of hard hit results has nearly 9,000 subscribers and people just throwing money away, presumably on his picks. His picks were some of the most obvious guys on the entire board anyway, so it didn't really matter. But I just hate seeing people follow stupid shit that doesn't actually mean anything. And especially to that degree versus what we draw. Pisses me off. Tell your friends. Check out rotoscouts.com as well. Subscribe over there. Everything's under $1 a day. Now that NBA is officially over, I might throw a promo up going into July, give you guys a little bit of a July, couple of weeks kind of a thing. We'll see when we get there. So if you're worried about that, if you're like, well, it's just baseball now, take this week. It's the 23rd right now. So we're talking about, a week from now. Pick up a weekly. It's under $7 to get from today to next Monday. And then if you like what you see and then you hit the promo price, if I run a promo, which I think I will, works out pretty well as far as price. Under $1 a day on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly at any point. Gets you access to anything that hits this website. Thinking about finding a way to get some NFL best ball content going. It's just, as I've said before, when people have asked, it's not a thing I personally play all that much. And I don't love diving into things that I don't actually play that much myself and like giving advice about it or like and projecting it is one thing. So maybe I just like project and rank, but don't do like opinion columns or anything like that. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to find a way to fill out some content around MLB the last 2 months of the summer before football starts back up. Pirates, 375 implied total, but one of the more realistic options, I think, if you're just looking to take one of the bad teams, one of the lower owned teams, and attack a highly owned pitcher who, despite some good numbers and some positive attributes, is entirely gettable. And it's all about O'Neal Cruz being in this lineup. Yeah, he's a 211, 328, 413, but he's got 13 home runs, 26 stolen bases, a 203 ISO, a 368 XWOB, but it rammed the point home, 23.2% barrels and 58.7% hard hits, striking out a little bit too much, but drawing plenty of walks. It's been an up and down ride so far this season for O'Neal Cruz. I was hoping for a little bit more. I was calling for the big breakout season. We might still get it in the end, given where he's at right now with the counting stats and everything. It hasn't been bad. It hasn't been as bad as some people might want to exaggerate. Think you go there, 61-35. He is fully priced for the DFS success that he's provided and for the matchup. But everybody else in this lineup's cheap. It's easy to stack them up. You've got 8 home runs apiece in very different seasons from Andrew McCutchen and Brian Reynolds. Expectations would have been for Reynolds to overperform McCutchen by a pretty wide margin. McCutchen has been way better. 264, 345, 417 versus 226, 300, 364, a 112 versus an 83 WRC plus in 276 plate appearances versus 317. Reynolds has come way down in price. He's also come way down in production. But what you like is he's actually gone up in barrel rate from 9.6 last year to 10.7, which is more reminiscent of 2 years ago. 46.8% hard hits is up as well. He's striking out a little bit more, but he's also walking slightly more. There are things you could at least cherry pick for positives, and it's a player we just know is better than he's performed. The 360 XWOB tells you the exact same story. So there's tons and tons of value for just picking off Brian Reynolds at that price. Nick Gonzalez at 34-26, having an okay 75 plate appearances. He's hit 2 home runs. Put okay bat on ball last year, 7.9% barrels. Last year, over 387 chances. It was 270, 311, 398, hit 7 home runs, stole 5 bases. It's a mix and match quality player, but he's priced like that, and he fits in at second base. You can quibble with the role in the cleanup spot, definitely, but it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. Take what you get. Joey Bart, probably more apt for the cleanup role than the 5 spot, but same thing essentially. 3,000 at catcher, 2,500 on the DraftKings on the FanDuel slate. 1 home run in 187 plate appearances is a little bit underwhelming. So is the .062 ISO, especially given a 9.4% barrel, 43.6% hard hits. Again, I just question where those balls are going. He has struck the ball well. He is also getting on at a 353 clip and drawing a ton of walks. So you're getting a little bit of value there anyway, but a substandard WRC plus mark. Spencer Harwich should be a better hitter than what he's been, over 117 chances. Not much of a power bat despite the 11.5% barrel, the 42.3% hard hits, but capable of putting decent wood on the ball from time to time. Just a 104 ISO. Could see that spike a little bit. Could see a home run here and there. But what he ought to be is a better BABIP-focused hitter with a little bit of pop behind it. First base for 34, 25 on FanDuel. Not an ideal first baseman, but he's at least cheap. Ke'Bryan Hayes we've seen plenty of to know that he just never delivers on what is pretty good contact. 44.7% hard hits, reminiscent of the last 2 seasons. He's pushed barrel rate kind of back up toward 2 years ago. Seen nothing for it, though. 57 WRC plus. Tommy Pham has just been shot. He was shot last year. He's been shot over 180 plate appearances this year. IKF never been much of a hitter, but 275, 319, 342. Find some batting average success on balls in play. You're really looking to live up in here and then like mix and match your way through those 3 guys. If you want to extend to a 5-man, it's pretty much those 3 guys that you're dealing with. A few shares of any of these guys is all right if you go crazy with Pirates, but it's really not a great opportunity. I would look for 3-mans if I'm looking to get contrarian with some Pirates. Brewers against Ashcraft should be a good opportunity for some bats. 4.86 implied total for them. Jackson Chourio coming in with an 8.58 in the home run model. He's got a dozen homers, 15 stolen bases. Mediocre slash line overall, 260, 288. Most concerningly, 453, a 193 ISO. Still creating runs 2% better than average. Just needs to find some walks. Did have a multi-walk day for the first time this season the other day. So maybe some encouragement there, or maybe just some happenstance. But overall, when we're just hunting for DFS stats, obviously he's still a very high priority bat in this lineup, if not the top priority. You do have a couple good lefties to throw at Braxton Ashcraft here, at least at the beginning of the game. Sal Frelick hitting for a good average, getting on base like crazy, stealing bases, 14 steals, a 112 WRC plus. Very interesting player for correlated scoring and a good table setter for the Brewers power. Christian Yelich, still good premium contact numbers. The hard hits all the way up at 49.2, barrels at 7.2, 14 home runs, 12 steals, 259, 337, 446, rounding into a pretty good year for Christian Yelich so far. Willie Contreras, 41, 3,000. Pretty down season for him. 6 home runs, 5 steals, a 319 xwOBA, just a 111 ISO, 4.9% barrels, down from 10% last year, 40.9% hard hits. It's okay in a vacuum. It's not a great number, but it's okay. But it's down significantly for this player. Strikeouts are normal as the last couple seasons. Walks are up slightly. That's saving the day. 357 on base. Just a 101 WRC plus. Bryce Turang at 41, 3,000, 16 stolen bases, good on base out of him as well, 105 WRC plus. Always playable. The power, kind of comes and goes. It's more situational ability to drive a ball, find some extra base hits. Just a .093 ISO though. 16 steals, the 352. That's where you want to look for your bonus scoring, your correlated scoring option. Throwing him into these two directly is not great, but having Jake Bauers down here is a plus for the Turang upside. You've gotten decent results out of Collins, over 168 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 8 steals, a solid on base out of him. So maybe as table setter number 2 ahead of Jake Bauers from a down lineup stack, or like a rounding it off with 3 hitters down here and 2 of these guys, like Chourio, Yelich, and then you skip down, go Turang, Collins, Bauers. Something like that works because Bauers has the ability to drive the ball from down here. 114 plate appearances, 5 home runs, a 206 ISO, a very compelling 371 xwOBA under the covers on 18% barrels, nearly 46% hard hits. And he runs a little bit too. 4 stolen bases in just 114 plate appearances. So I kind of like the looks of that. Going like those two, him, and then these two. Yeah, you're leaving Sal Frelick out of it. You can go any direction you want up at the top. That's we're using Bauers at first. And then we get 3 outfielders filling in with Collins, Chourio, and Yelich. And then we get Bryce Turang at second base. So we still leave some premium positions to fill from other teams. That's a $3,860, so $3,900 per person stack with this team at one of the better totals of the day, going up against nothing pitching. That's a really interesting looking Brewers stack. Playing it in other directions, like let's say you go, honestly, there's an argument to be made for making it from here down there and Bauers. Yelich, Contreras, Turang, Collins, Bauers becomes $3,800 a man on the nose. So almost the same price, just filling positions a little bit differently to get the catcher in there. This version would allow you to use Bauers in the outfield and also leave first base open. So you go to your secondary stack and you're looking to fill first, third, and shortstop if you went that way. So you get 3 ultra premium bats, or maybe you go imagine the Mets were on a better day and you could grab Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor as a 2-man. And then a one-off at third base, tremendous one-off. That creates opportunity to grab 3 really interesting individual upside bats, or a 3-man stack if you can find it that fill out those positions. I like that. There's a lot to work with there. Even with the lack of multi-position, just on Jake Bauers being in that swing point down there and having all these outfield options. It's kind of interesting with the Brewers. Joey Ortiz, entirely skippable down toward the bottom of the lineup. That's why he wasn't included. Caleb Durbin, entirely skippable in the 7th spot. That's why he wasn't really included. He's hit 3 home runs, stolen 6 bases. Ortiz has 2 home runs, 8 steals, 86, 54 WRC plus. Obviously, if you get carried away with Brewer stacks, you're including them in some, but they are lower priority guys for a reason. I'm going to say Brewers bats, then Chad Patrick, then the Pirates bats, and you don't want any Pirates pitching here. OMG Father saying, if it is, I got to boost the Braves. But again, so the Braves, I know we see here crazy stuff in sports all the time, but I was today years old when I found that. Oh, yeah, we were talking about that the other day, the 2 Max Muncies. Yeah. Somebody did the study. I mentioned it. They looked up how many Max Muncies or Maximilian Muncies or whatever are in the USA, and there were like 5 or 7 or some single digit number of just like total population of the US. People named that even. And 2 of them have the same birthday, separated by like 10 years, and are Major League Baseball players, which is bonkers. Top favorite stacks of the day is something that's up on the website in the stacks column, but Yankees were the top spot. Just undeniable force of nature given that run total in that ballpark. The order on FanDuel went Yankees, Reds, and then some outlier Angels actually slid in there as a good value stack, a little bit of home run upside. They only rank 11th by the Vegas board, but they jump into the 3 spot for fantasy upside against Walker Buehler. We'll get there. Diamondbacks were 4th. On the DraftKings board, it goes Yankees, Reds, and then Angels and Diamondbacks are actually tied at 4th. And the Red Sox actually sneak into 3rd and get a good value mark as the number 2 value. They're going up against Jack Kachanowicz on the other side of that Angels game. So I think both sides of Red Sox Angels potentially may be interesting for some like sneaky-ish kind of stacks. Somebody mentioned the Braves being in that mix. They're 6th on both sides by points, 5th by value, 5th on FanDuel value, 7th on DraftKings value, 5th on home runs, 7th on Vegas value. They're kind of right in the middle with a ton of ceiling. If they're under-owned, I'm happy to get extra Braves. Brewers ranked 7th by points, 8th on DraftKings. The value number's a little bit skewed as well, just from some of the underperformers at the bottom of the lineup, because that's a man-by-man kind of a number. I would actually give them a little bit of a nudge just off of what we just talked through. So that's some of the favorite stacks of the day. The Cubbies, 4.32 implied total against Matthew Liberatore. Gettable enough lefty, but also one who's been pitching fairly well overall this season. Outside of a couple bumpy spots, Liberatore's pitched to a 4.08 ERA, a much better 3.62 xFIP. Very interesting, even though it's a low strikeout rate, 20.1 to 3.3% strikeout walk ratio there. So not a bad pitcher on the mound. Not a high upside pitcher either, though. I didn't start him this week in fantasy. He was a pickup. I actually ended up cutting him to take somebody off the IL because I just didn't want to tangle with this Cubs team. And that's kind of how I feel about the DFS spot as well. 8,200, 8,500 on a day where it's just a lot of focus on cheap pitching outside of the top 2 guys. He falls kind of into the middle, falls a little bit by the wayside, just kind of given a little lack of ceiling here. Cubby's ability to exploit some of the downside of his low strikeout rate. They're tremendous for bat on ball. His not walking anybody colliding with their extreme ability to draw walks in a lot of those spots in the lineup gets a little bit sticky for the Liberatore upside. Just a challenging day for him. So I'm not really going there aggressively for DFS. A few shares here and there is fine because, again, he is a talented guy with decent numbers this year. He's found an ability to limit home runs in spite of allowing a fair amount of premium contact on a fly ball trajectory, and that's nearly a 10% barrel to go with these numbers. So I would look for some Cubbies home run upside, maybe to creep up beyond where the model has him today. Liberatore's just found some happenstance that's kept home runs off the board to some degree this year. Ben Brown's the interesting one. Like I said at the beginning of the show and the last time he pitched, where we didn't really get the upside we were looking for. Kid is a potential ace. He's got that good stuff. Stuff Plus isn't grading out great, but that's the overall number. A couple of pitches grade out extremely well. 13.1% swinging strike rate, 30.9% CSW, a 26.3% strikeout rate in the show this year. That's over 13 starts, 74 and a third innings. He's pitched to a 5.57 ERA. We've had some bumps along the way, make no mistake. But a 3.48 xFIP under the surface, 7.5% walk rate against the strikeout numbers, the swinging strike numbers is tremendous for a young pitcher just finding his form. Last year in 55 and a third, 8 starts, some relief work, had a 28.8% strikeout rate on a similar 13.5 swinging strike rate, 32.4% CSW. You can see where Stuff Plus was last year on the Arsenal. Just more work fully stretched as a starter this season. Kid's got lots and lots of upside. 77 against the Cards lineup with just a 20.2% average strikeout rate overall, but some gettable hitters in there. I like the upside for Ben Brown today. Ben Brown is in the lineup in the Dynasty League on a 2-start week this week, starting with this one. 427 implied total. I would play some cards against and try and chase the downside as a little bit of a hedge position. But really interesting at the price on DraftKings. 87 on FanDuel works for me. I think there's enough upside that you can play him. Last time out, just 5 innings. Went 5 2/3, so pitched into the 6th against Philly, but ended up getting burnt for 6 earned runs the start before that. Went 7 in a very effective 2-run start against Detroit. Struck out 7 the start before that one. 6-inning quality start, 1 hit, no run, 9 strikeout game against the Reds start before that one. Has pitched into the 6 several times. In addition to those, completed the 6 2 other times in addition to that. So you're not without quality start upside on FanDuel for the money, for the additional money. Cubbies bats against Liberator. Between the two teams, that's the team I prefer, and that's basically a statement I can make any day. Monster home run total so far from the Cubs, and they just keep pouring it on. Ian Happ has come on a lot with the power over recent days. He's up to 11 home runs now, a 170 ISO, 9.1% barrels, capitalizing on the home run upside that we always knew was there. He's getting on base at a 341 clip that is just always there for him as well. 12.2% walks both of the last 2 seasons, 14-3 the year before. Consistent run creator, power bat. Ian Happ is just a really interesting DFS player, and he's not badly priced on FanDuel, and he's downright cheap at $4,000 on DraftKings, which is good because Kyle Tucker's really expensive and worthwhile. 62, 4,000, 15 homers, 18 steals, and 339 at 243 ISO, a 401 xWOBA, 156 WRC plus. He's tremendous. He's a superstar. Seiya Suzuki at 52, 33 has 20 home runs at this point in the season, 283 ISO, 134 WRC plus. Been crushing baseballs all year. A little bit cheap, honestly, for the production. I'm surprised he's not slightly more expensive. Dansby Swanson at 42, 3,000, 14 homers, rounding into a good Dansby season as far as the power bat goes. 293 on base is the thing that you can definitely argue with as far as Dansby losing a little bit of quality, but he's picked it back up in other areas. So not concerned. We could see if the walks come back a little bit, if the on base surges a little bit, we'll see that WRC plus spike a little bit better. But right now, a cheap shortstop who hits home runs, hits extra base hits for power, drives in runs, perfectly fine. Pico Armstrong, 59, 36, putting up star caliber numbers, 21 homers, 23 steals, a 139 WRC plus, 354 xWOBA supporting the upside. Been tremendous this year. Carson Kelly's interesting at 37, 28, especially where you need to play catchers. Tons of good bat on ball, over 182 chances. Hit 9 home runs. They came in a rush kind of early, 219 ISO under the surface, but still, or 219 ISO with 355 xWOB under the surface, rather. 131 WRC plus overall. He's in and out of the lineup, depending on who's on the mound, but love the upside. Any given slate upside, and he's not expensive where you have to play the position. Nico Horner, Justin Turner, Matt Shaw. Nico and Shaw, mix and match quality. You get a little bit of stolen base upside, not enough on base out of Shaw down the bottom of the lineup. You get more of that out of Nico. He's probably the better of the two options. Both guys substandard via WRC plus. And then Justin Turner's another guy who's just been kind of lost. He's out there floating on the life raft, and he's in the dark, and the life raft is starting to deflate, and there are fins. We're not sure what kind of fins they are. Maybe they're dolphins. We can be optimistic, but the dude is into his mid 40s now, I think. What's Turner, like 42? Going to be 41 this year in November. Put it this way. Justin Turner's first appearance in the majors came the same year that the MCU started. Same year as the first Iron Man came out, 2009. It's been a minute. All that is to say, Justin Turner, not all that appealing down the bottom of the lineup. He's just cheap. Not a great way to fill first or third. But against a high contact, low strikeout, middling kind of lefty overall, any given slate, if you're building a bunch of Cubs, sure, you can have some Justin Turner. It's not a mistake to include him in a few stacks, but it would probably be a mistake to prioritize him or really expect anything. And then there's this Cardinals lineup. They're incredibly cheap. They're going up against a pitcher with a 5+ ERA who's given up a 10.6% barrel, 46.1% hard hits, 91.8 miles an hour of exit velo. Ben Brown definitely has gotten lucky to be at a 2.69% home run rate given that contact allowed. It's just this Cards team is less than likely than a lot of teams to capitalize on some premium contact. They're just not big home run hitters. They've created some runs. They're not as bad as maybe things might seem sometimes, but they're also not all that good. It's been a really tough team to project this year. I really struggle with the Cards. I really have. But you can easily go there against Brown. Vegas is telling you that. Their cheap pricing puts them in play, if nothing else. One guy over 3,000 on FanDuel. One guy over 4,000 on DraftKings. It's the same guy. It's Wilson Contreras. He's up to 10 home runs now, just a 168 ISO, but a 109 WRC plus, putting very good bat on ball, 12.9% barrels, 45.8% hard hits. It's been the more appealing of the Contrerases this year. Overall, mediocre numbers still from a first baseman. That plays a lot better if he's still a catcher, but he's not. So mediocre at first base, despite the good premium contact. Brendan Donovan at 3,700, 308, 377, 429. We're going to cool eventually. 4 home runs, 3 steals, 368 xWOB is very, very good. It's reflective of the premium contact that he's made, the lack of strikeouts, the walks that he's pushed a little bit this year. I still expect some cooling around the edges. 4 positions on FanDuel. He's highly playable if you're going to the Cards. It's not necessarily a reason to go to the Cards. I would throw him in the mix, though, even with what I just said. He is kind of interesting just as a second base one-off. If you're building with other teams and you just have a cheap opening at second base, that's not a terrible way to fill it, especially because he leads off, so you get a little bit of plate appearance spike. Mason Wynn at 3,629 is just a spot filler at shortstop as far as I'm concerned. A 310 xWOB, a 99 WRC plus, pretty mediocre 280 plate appearances. Was just kind of a medium contact guy or a light contact guy last year. Saw some success for it, but kind of normalized so far this season. Alec Burleson, 3,829, slashing 308, 346, 464 with 8 homers and 241 chances, but just a 156 ISO. Has created runs 26% better than average, but just medium contact. 6 and change barrels, 43% hard hits. It's nothing special here. Frequent bat on ball, some good success early in the season. You're not paying a tax for that success, so it's fine, and he's a priority in card stacks. But another guy is not really more than just another outfielder overall. Lars Nootbaar is more talented than that, has seen poor results so far this year. 229, 336, 370. At least he's getting on base. He's at a 102 WRC plus, and he's got 9 home runs. It's not really capitalizing fully on the premium contact numbers, though. 9.4% barrels and 52% hard hits. Arenado's shot. Nolan Gorman has been pretty bad, over 163 chances, and has never been consistent in the show. Not even really hitting the ball all that hard this year. The premium contact is way down in a small sample of batted ball events. He's fine to mix in. You want him at second base, but then you're blocking Brendan Donovan on DraftKings. So it's just more problem than he is solution. Pedro Pajes, Victor Scott, mix and match pieces down bottom of the lineup. Four corners, for sure. I'm going to lean a bit Cubs bats. Ben Brown, Liberator, Cards bats. But it probably should be bats, pitcher. I just hate the Cards for some reason this year. It's a team I've always liked, too. Angels are here. Red Sox, Nats, and Padres to round out the rest of the show are not. As mentioned, when I was talking about favored stacks of the day, these Angels are drawing monster numbers. Some good numbers. We just lost one of them, whoever it was. Travis d'Arnaud in the lineup. I guess that was O'Hoppe. I love Travis d'Arnaud. I actually am not disappointed with that change. It cheapens that stack up a little bit. And it gives us a player that people are going to use less than they would have if it was O'Hoppe. So what we're looking at here is just a lot of opportunity for upside against this form of Walker Buehler. 5.95 ERA with a 4.22 xFIP on the season. Last time out, 3 1/3 against a Seattle team that plays really, really similarly as far as like what we're looking for, what they do well. Not, again, that any one recent result matters, just throwing that into the mix conversationally. But 8 earned runs to 21 hitters over 3 1/3, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks, 1 home run allowed. And I am looking at the correct column, 1 home run in each of his last 2, 2 home runs in each of the 2 before that, and 1 home run in the one before those 2. It's been a bad stretch for power for Walker Buehler. In his last 5 starts, that stretch of starts, he's given up 23 runs in 23 innings. That's a lot of runs. Not that many strikeouts, handful of walks. It's been pretty problematic. He did have a 7-inning game against the Rays. I'm trying to bright spot that recent stretch. 7 innings against the Rays, faced 28 hitters, gave up 3 runs on 6 hits, allowed a homer, but struck out 7. That's your bright spot. 6 strikeout game against the Braves in that stretch as well, but gave up 5 earned, 2 home runs, 10 hits. So not exactly a good DFS day. At 75 on DraftKings, he's just a little bit impacted for what should be some negative from just hits and base runners and things working against him. And there's just major upside for a bad day. So even here, I really don't love it. I'd rather be over here with these Angels bats. 81 on FanDuel, I don't really see much need to challenge it at that price. There's just options that are better on the board. It wouldn't completely knock me out of my chair if it was a 3-run day where he gave up a homer but found 6-7 strikeouts. But I think, again, the hit downside on DraftKings is going to take away from the appeal. And the price on FanDuel, despite a couple 6-inning, 7-inning appearances, I think you're less than likely to book that quality start here. Really don't like it. Leads me to Angels bats. Going the other way, Red Sox, really don't like Jack Janowitz. Leads me to Red Sox bats. 4.65 implied total for Boston. Lefty-friendly lineup from the Red Sox, most likely. This is still the projected version, but we got a lot of high-quality lefties to work with against Janowitz. He's pitched to a 17.2% strikeout, 10.7% walk, 5.38 ERA, 4.67 xFIP, limited for swinging strikes overall. Way too many guys on base, way too many barrels, too much hard hit, too much exit velo, too many home runs, 4.45. Not surprising given that combination of factors. He does kind of keep the ball down at a 7.9 degree average launch, but the mistakes, they obviously travel. Year before, it was a better average launch, over 65 1/3 in 11 starts, was a little bit better with limiting home runs despite similar other premium contact numbers. But you can see the launch angle cut into the barrel rate. That came down somewhat and was just a little bit more effective in those spots. Didn't make as many mistakes in that sample. Despite the recent success, and it was really just the one start against the Yankees, 5 1/3, 2 earned runs, but gave up 2 homers in that game. Struck out 8, which is an outlier performance for him. Walked 3. Even that, it's a mediocre start outside of the fact that he limited them to only those 2 home runs, just 2 hits in 5 1/3. This is a really bad stretch for the Yankees and an uptick for Janowitz. 4 1/3 the start before that. 2 earned runs on 2 homers again. Struck out just 2 and walked 0. 4 earned runs over 3 1/3. 4 earned runs over 3 2/3. 4 strikeouts apiece against the Mariners and the Guardians. A bad one against the Yanks, but went 6 2/3. You can just go back and it's this over and over and over again. Handful of runs, probably a home run, couple few strikeouts. It's just not good. That's how you get to 17.2 here, 10.7 there, and all those other ugly numbers. I like the Red Sox here. You don't have anybody above the magic number, although Devers probably would have been. But you've got a good stretch of medium power there at least. A lot of 6s and 7s in the home run model. That can play. Jarren Duran at 46-31, 5 home runs, 15 steals. We've talked a few times about the lack of extra base hit quality this year. But making good contact, 9.3% barrels, 47.2% hard hits. No reason to expect that he wouldn't come roaring back as far as some of those extra base hits, just, kind of finding the right part of the ballpark. Carlos Narvaez, 38-28, 6 home runs, a very, very good early stretch for him. 227 excellent plate appearances, 169 ISO. You're not really paying too much tax for the previously good performance. I feel like we're going to normalize fairly quickly. But we'll see where it goes. 11.8% barrels, 44% hard hits. Highly playable if you're going to Red Sox. That said, kind of prefer the lefties and some of the true power bats in this lineup. Roman Anthony, I think, in just 45 plate appearances, probably qualifies for that. Just one home run, just 111, 289, 250. Some growing pains, obviously, but a 387 xWOBA on 16% barrels, 44% hard hits so far. He's drawn a 17.8% walk against that 24.4% strikeouts. Kid's a top prospect in baseball. He hits home runs. He runs when he gets on. He's definitely interesting here for the 39, for the 25 in the outfield. More than just another outfielder, despite not really showing it yet. Abraham Toro, pretty good, 131 plate appearances. Playable. Probably prefer him at second base out of all the positions across the two sites. 33-27, 5 home runs on the board, a 194 ISO, a 118 WRC plus, though. He's playable at the corners if you got to go there. Wheeler is very interesting in this lineup. Wheeler is 2,600 on FanDuel. That is a mistake. Wheeler is 4,200 on DraftKings. That's a higher price, but it's still cheap enough. 13.5% barrels, 46% hard hits. Gets a lot of platoon opportunities, but might have a clear path to just everyday plate appearances against, regardless of handedness. Doesn't matter today. Jack Kachanowicz is right-handed. Wheeler's got 13 home runs on the board this year, 221 ISO. This is in 243 plate appearances. A 114 WRC plus, a 360 xWOBA. I don't understand why he's so cheap. Take advantage. 7.21 monster bat in the heart of that lineup. Trevor Story at 35-28, still hitting the ball very hard. 10.2% barrel, 46.2% hard hit. Counting stats have been good. 10 homers, 11 steals. I'll worry about less about the slash line. I want to get those results, obviously, but if I can get counting stats from my DFS lineups for those prices at shortstop, that works. That's fine. It's just a 128 ISO. He hasn't seen much ongoing success outside of those 10 home runs for the contact he's making. And that explains away a lot of the problems in the slash line. He's also not walking, just 4.5% walks against a ton of strikeouts. That's where you get a few zeros into the mix. That's what diminishes him, I think, more than like the results on some good premium contact. At worst, though, Trevor Story is very, very playable. Marcelo Mayer, 3,000, 2,500, another lefty, 4 home runs, a 227 ISO in his 73 plate appearances, an 11% barrel rate, 62.2% hard hits, another of the top prospects in baseball. Very interesting at second base for the cheap pricing against Jack Kachanowicz. Sedan Rafaela, given the barrels, the hard hits this year, 8 home runs, 10 steals, similar counting stats to last year, similarly below average WRC plus too, but a 330 xWOB is encouraging for ongoing upticks, and the premium contact's been dynamite this year. And then David Hamilton is another guy in a Red Sox uniform. 3 home runs, 12 steals. I guess we shouldn't ignore it completely. 107 plate appearances, a 32 WRC plus, a 241 xWOBA. Those 3 home runs and 12 steals were the best days of his season. Last year, 248, 303, 395, 8 homers, 33. Wait a minute. David Hamilton stole 33 bases in 317 plate appearances last year? I did not clock that in any way, shape, or form. It only led to a 92 WRC plus. I have no memory of that. It's just not at all an interesting player. Back in 2023, as a 25-year-old in AAA, he did hit 17 home runs and stole 57 bags. 469 plate appearances. Slash 247, 363, 438 with a 103 WRC plus. In 2022, the year before that in AA, as a 24-year-old on that, 12 home runs and 70 stolen bases. That was across 531 chances. And then 52 steals in 459 chances in high A and AA back in 2021. So the steals are very real. I will give him at least that. 12 stolen bases in 107 chances, despite a 210 on base percentage. It's a hilarious combination of numbers, but it's very real. He can steal bases. So if you're hunting for that and only that, I wish you luck. Second base is where you want him. Angels bats, again, I like the upside here. They rated out well, and I couldn't really suppress it. 51-32 for Zach Neto. He's got 11 home runs and 12 steals in just 253 chances, a 365 xWOBA. Could be more coming from Neto on top of what's already been tremendous. Love the option. Honestly, a little bit cheaper than he could be. Nolan Shanuel at 35-29. Mix and match quality player at the worst. 6 home runs, just a 129 ISO. That's not really what he's paid to do. 372 on base, and a 121 WRC plus. He's an asset for correlated scoring. He's cheap. He fills first base, and you don't really get the power bat there, but everybody else in this lineup more than makes up for that power, so you're fine putting him into the lineup for the correlated scoring. Mike Trout, 45-33. Dozen home runs on his season, a 216 ISO, a 400 xWOB under the covers, monster premium contact, and it says Trout on the back of his jersey. You just play him. 4,031 for Taylor Ward. Monster barrels out of him, 19 home runs. Both of those guys, less than you would want in the slash line. Taylor Ward below average at 99 WRC plus, but the ability to immediately and very rapidly surge. I guess immediately is quicker than rapidly probably, but you get me. He could surge at any given moment, just given the premium contact that he makes. There are a lot of strikeouts for those two hitters, but Walker Buehler's not exactly buzzing through hitters this season. Love the upside for that stretch of hitters for the Angels. And then it gets interesting. Travis d'Arnaud at 24-26. We've talked plenty about Travis d'Arnaud over the last couple of seasons. I like him as a backup catcher for the power upside. Monster premium contact numbers over the last couple seasons. Good home run totals for the plate appearances that we've got. 15 in 336 last year, 11 in 292, and then 18 in a more complete 426 the year before that. So far this year, 3 in just 119 chances, just a 136 ISO. Ugly slash line, just a 66 WRC plus. As I said, my hope is people go away from him, and he would be a tremendous asset at 2,400 on the DraftKings slate. That's a good one-off. That's a dynamite option to put into the heart of an Angel stack. Travis d'Arnaud has very realistic power upside against this pitcher. 16.7% barrels, 44.4% hard hits in the small sample of batted ball events this year. Despite the lack of results, he is hitting the ball very, very hard in the few batted ball events we've got to work with this year. Speaking of, Joe Adell, don't really understand why DraftKings hasn't caught up. They're just at 3,300. FanDuel not fully caught up at 29. Joe Adell's got 16 home runs already. 256 ISO, a 372 xWOBA, a 115 WRC plus. Hasn't stolen as many bases at as an aggressive a clip, but he is a fixture in this lineup now, and for very good reasons. He's a monster power bat who is probably finally fully arrived. Love the upside for Joe Adell. 8+ in the home run model, honestly, could be a little bit higher. Very, very cheap. One of the top priorities in this lineup. Lamont Wade is on this team now, 23-21. He's having a terrible year, but he's been a very, very good hitter, very good source of correlated scoring, and a little bit of power over the last few seasons. At worst, he's still a mixer for nearly the mid price on both sides. Luis Rengifo is really cheap. He's come on slightly, 220, 255, 299. It's very difficult to see. 4 home runs, a 51 WRC plus, but a few good games recently, and hopefully an uptick and a return to form for a guy who was, reasonably a mid-grade type player with good DFS days and some good counting stats. And then Christian Moore, one of the top prospects in baseball, 2,600, 2,400, just slashing 167, 194, 333, but he's got a home run on the board. Give the kid a minute to find his footing. He was in college last year. Draft pick last year. So, got to give him a minute. Fills second base really cheap against a gettable starter. Angels bats, Red Sox bats on FanDuel, the way the board on the website has it. Red Sox bats, Angels bats on DraftKings, the way the board on the website has it. I'm glad we checked that first. That's a very distinct difference. But I like both teams on both sites quite a bit, and more so than the pitching. Despite Buehler projecting out okay at 75-81, I think you're just strikeout chasing against a pitcher with a pitcher who's been really, really otherwise mediocre. I think there's more downside for Buehler than there is upside via the strikeout, but that's probably the way I would go. I just have no faith that Kachanowicz can replicate anything like what he did against the Yankees the other day. And we close with Nationals and Padres. Coming up on 6 o'clock, 5:51, right around where I figured we would stop. OMG Father says, Wilson, where are you, Wilson? Love it. What's that a reference to? I know what it's a reference from, but what are you referencing when you yell that? Are you just yelling that? OMG Father says, as a Braves fan, I'm too scared to play Schwelly tonight against the top half of that Mets lineup. Yeah, that is the problem with the Mets. That is definitely the downside of Schwelly, is the ding that those low strikeout, super high quality Mets guys give you. Cubs chiming in. If your last name is Hamilton, MLB starts you with 30 stolen bases. Love it. All right. The new Mets reliever Richard Lovelady has formally requested to go by his nickname, Dickie Lovelady. Solid. Oh, OMG Father said I was talking about somebody on the life raft. I was. Good call. Nice. Sharp reference. I like it. All right. Closing strong with the Padres and the Nats. Mitchell Parker, 68-73. Probably not. Going up against the Padres team with a projected lineup that has a 17.6% strikeout rate overall. We've got the confirmed. We can pop that in. It's probably going to be the same. We do have Jackson Merrill in the 2 spot. So that's a good bump. 17.6% strikeout rate average for this lineup. Obviously, somewhat bolstered by the 1.9 absurd strikeout rate from Luis Arias, who moved from an inexplicable 2 spot all season to an inexplicable 4 spot in the lineup today. I actually like him better in the cleanup spot, where just like the hit tool maybe comes through a little bit and just continues to bring runners around and cycle the lineup a little bit of sequencing out of the middle of the lineup. I think he's better in the cleanup spot than he was in the 2 spot for sure. So at least that helps with this Padres lineup. It's a little bit more balanced. But he brings that strikeout average down for sure. But you can see even the high strikeout guys, you've got 25-9 on Elias Diaz, a part-time catcher at the bottom. Everybody else, the high strikeout numbers are 20, 21. So this is a very effectively low, and has been for the last few seasons, low strikeout Padres team. They've got medium power. They've got good ability to reach first base. 4.86 implied total. Works pretty well against what Parker does poorly. Not striking guys out. Walking a few too many. 4.59 ERA, a 4.78 xFIP. Medium as far as the premium contact allowed. Obviously, that's a tremendously high hard hit rate at 50%. 91.5 miles an hour of exit velo. But an okay barrel rate, and hasn't led to too many home runs. My money would be on the barrels and the home runs going up, along with all those hard hits and exit velo, though. 91 rating by Stuff Plus. On the other side of this one, Kolek is the interesting part. 7,900, 7,800. Projects out all right. He's got a 3.59 ERA, but a 4.37 xFIP. He's not all that much better than Parker on the mound on the other side, but he's got a slightly better matchup. One that also doesn't really come with any inherent strikeout rate, and he only strikes hitters out at a 16.7% clip. He's similar in that he's given up a 50.3% hard hit rate and 92.1 miles an hour of exit velo, but he's been even better at managing barrels. And his is a little bit more realistic, because while the Parker number sub 8% is decent, but it comes on a 15.5 degree average launch. So a couple more, push in that launch angle could push that barrel up a little bit higher, where this low barrel rate is more created by keeping launch incredibly low. 7.6 degree average launch, demonstrable ability to keep the ball down. I don't have his ground ball rate in front of me, but I'm sure it's good. It's not that he's particularly adept at anything else, but I think managing a few good innings here, looking for 6 clean innings, is reasonable to expect from Kolek. It's kind of what he's done through the season. 6 1/3 last time out. Did give up 3 earned runs on 6 hits. That was against the Dodgers, though. 3 strikeouts, 1 walk. Start before that was rough. 4 1/3 against the Diamondbacks. Gave up 4 earned, 5 runs total on 7 hits. Struck out 5, walked 2, but 2 home runs allowed. He gave up 2 homers in that game, and he gave up 3 home runs in a game against Seattle back on May 16th. And he's given up no home runs other than that. So he kind of slipped the power away maybe a little bit. Get a lot of ground balls out of him. Cruise through 6 innings of 4 strikeout ball. And then it comes down to what's he allowed base hits wise? What's your negative look like on your DraftKings side? Do I get my 6th inning, my quality start bonus on FanDuel? He completed 6 1/3, got the quality start last time. What concerns me for that is on the 7th and the 2nd, went 5 2/3 in both those games. 3 hits to 22 hitters, no runs, basically the same start. 3 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks. That was at the Brewers and at the Giants. Not being able to get through those 6th innings sucks. Had a quality start, 6 innings back in the end of May on the 22nd against the Blue Jays. Had a 9-inning complete game shutout, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. 7 strikeout game was his strikeout outlier, but it was created by the innings pitched. That was at Coors Field back on May 10th. So we're just looking for that hope of clean innings. We're crossing our fingers to get through 6, though, on FanDuel. I think he's got the leash to do it. It's just does the ability to actually get there come through. But the leash is there for 6. Not getting beyond 6, I don't think. Unless we're getting that, shutout, no-hit kind of a day. Nats bats against, it's a little diminished given the 374 implied total, given the implied ability of Kolek to keep the home runs light or lighter probability than normal. If you're going there, you're living up in these top few hitters, and then you're mixing and matching your way through the rest of that lineup as always. Everybody after 4 is problematic this year. Josh Bell, Sub Mendoza, 9 home runs on the board, 280 on base is disappointing, a 75 WRC plus. Even Nathaniel Lowe, 13 home runs is great, and he's driven in 51, which is great counting stats wise. Driven in a ton of runs this year at first base because he's got some good options getting on ahead of him. But he's at 229, 296, 403 otherwise. I'm 95 WRC plus despite the power output. So it's been kind of a mixed bag from Nathaniel Lowe, and he's not doing some of the things we would expect, especially with the on-base percentage. But he is more of a power bat this year. It's been a weird output from him this season. So even he has been a little bit problematic. Luis Garcia has been okay, but not performing at the levels we saw last season. Has been on the rise, though. 271, 312, 429, and 104 WRC plus. Very compelling 377 xWOB under the cover, 7 home runs, 7 steals. But from there down at best, dicey. 30 pretty bad plate appearances so far out of Brady House, who's supposed to be pretty good. Dalen Lyle, rather. Not sure who Jaden Lyle is, but he's probably worse at baseball. 170, 224, 340 so far out of Dalen Lyle, who has not been good over 59 plate appearances. Very cheap to mix things up down lineup. Has a 46.5% hard hit if you need something to cling to. Kibert Ruiz puts frequent bat on ball, but doesn't really see good results for it. 248, 279, 321 with 2 homers, a .073 ISO. Those are typical numbers out of Kibert, despite constant 9.3% strikeout, 3.1% walk, is improved over the ludicrous numbers from the last 2 seasons. There's nothing but bat on ball, but there's just no high quality. There's no quality in that bat on ball. Jacob Young steals some bases, but only 5 on the season in 161 chances. Kind of underwhelming. Up at the top, these 2 guys are stars. 53-34 for CJ at shortstop. Perfectly adequate way to fill short. 11 homers, 15 steals, but just a 4.86 is noteworthy in the home run model against that ability to check power a little bit. 207 ISO. He's been fantastic this year. And then James Wood, 21 home runs. Kid's just a star. Basically out of the gate. 279 ISO, 157 WRC plus. So you had half a season as a rookie last year, and then half a season so far this year. So let's do a little. We're at 30 home runs. That's what? 679 plate appearances. That's essentially and exactly a full season sample. So 30 home runs, 23 steals, a 342 on base. If you're just averaging the ISO, it's 221. Kid was already basically on his way there. That was a tremendous 336 chances. And this is just, again, him fulfilling his destiny. Where are we stopping this year? 40 home runs in the cards? 30 certainly is. You want to check him at 35, 37? Kid's a star. 57-35. He's priced like at 6.49 against, again, a little bit of demonstrability to keep the ball in the yard, but you're most likely a home run hitter for the Nats, your highest priority bat in that Nats lineup for sure. I already talked about Luis Ariz in the cleanup role and how he's kind of weird there, but a little bit better than the 2 spot. We've got Jackson Merrill dropping into the 2 spot. 45-32 for his talent is pretty cheap in that role. 5 home runs, a 303, 347, 474 slash line, 130 WRC plus in the 190 plate appearances. Just been in and out of the lineup with injuries. Unfortunate because he's so good. Fernando Tatis is a superstar, 14 home runs, 15 steals. Kind of an underwhelming slash line overall, 268, 359, 460. Expect a little bit more than that. Expect a little bit better than a 192 ISO, but overall, pretty tremendous. 5,000, 3,700, one of the more affordable superstars on the board. Manny Machado at 49-35 having a tremendous year. A dozen home runs, a 144 WRC+. Xander Bogaerts, 33-28. As soon as I wrote him off the other day, I talked about it on, I want to say it was Thursday that I wrote him off. Went out, had a 4-hit day, scored some runs, did good things. Talked about it on Friday, went out, had another couple good days. He's up to 252, 326, 352 all of a sudden. 328 xWOBA, 93 WRC+, 4 home runs, 13 steals. What he's not really doing is hitting for power very much, but he's low strikeout. He's high walk. He gets on base. We might be finally catching the wind in our sails here. So again, we're not just looking at those results. We're looking at a player who was formerly fantastic, has been mired by some lingering injuries with the shoulder, the wrist, and et cetera, the last couple seasons, including this year. The power output dip is probably very real, but it would not surprise me at all if Xander Bogaerts goes on a tear for just some good batted ball results. Just some BABIP on his side, swinging these numbers up again. The walks coming through and keeping the on base high, some run scoring. I think he's very, very playable, and that'll probably create yet another dip. Gavin Sheets at 35-27 has a dozen home runs, a 198 ISO, 120 WRC+. Tremendous stretch for him. He's still cheap at first base or in the outfield on FanDuel. Just an outfielder on DraftKings, but more than just another outfielder, given how he's hit the ball this year. He's very interesting. Jose Iglesias, mix and match. Joe Church, 160 pretty empty plate appearances, 66 WRC+. Just a spot filler at 24 on FanDuel. Less so on DraftKings because third base, shortstop, you can find better ways to fill those positions. He is very cheap, though. Cronenworth, mix and match your way through shares of him, first base, second base, whatever you want. Elias Diaz is a poor option at catcher outside of infrequent power. Oddly prefer Martín Maldonado there. This goes... cheap Stephen Kolek, Padres bats, Nationals bats, and Mitchell Parker's just a dart. I suppose it's 68 on DraftKings if you really, really need to get stupid cheap with it. And that's a good cue to go back to the pitching board. At that price, he's maybe throwable as a dart, but it's probably not going to work. The Pods are low strikeout. He's going to give up some hits and probably some runs along the way. Let's do this pitching board one last time real quick. Yeah, chat was lively today, Greg. Larry C. got here. He caught up to the live show. Terry had his daily stroke going from 1.5 speed down to normal speed. Can you slow it down? Can you do 0.25? Have me talk like this. When I already take pauses and have a weird cadence as I'm trying to organize my thoughts before I have things come out of my mouth. Sometimes I go real fast and then I get choppy with it. I can't imagine what it would sound like that slow. Ausastic. Is that the new name over at Osimo? That's what they should have changed the name to. Ausastic. Carson Kelly, double dong day, huh? All right. I went Luke Raley for the home run pick of the day. As I said earlier, it's up on the website, rotoscouts.com, under $1 a day. Gets you access to everything that hits that website right now. Baseball projections, you get a custom home run model number for everybody on the board. Top stacks, rankings, power index, home run pick for every single team, plus the home run pick of the day. Most importantly, all the projections. Under $1 a day. Like I said, pick up a week today. Under $7 gets you to next Monday. Probably going to drop a July promo in now that we're on baseball only, but also probably going to gin up some best ball football stuff, or maybe forward-looking football stuff, or something to pad the value a little bit. Give you guys what good bang for your buck still. Not my fault there's not other sports going on right now. And yes, as Cubs points out, the award-winning Discord. The best of people who are in that Discord, according to them. I actually did that in an ad back in the day when I was working at the pizza place. Probably told this story before, but I'll tell it again real quick. I was running the pizza joint Serrano's down in Middletown back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was one of the local coupon shopper type flyer deals. We decided to get some money together and we'll put an ad in there. It was big expenditure for us. We were really successful when they first opened. Then they stopped coming in, the owners, the guys who turned out to be mobbed up a little bit. It was probably just a front. I've told that part of the story before, I'm sure. So once it started being like me and some other guys like cooking, doing shit like that, we went down pretty quickly. But in that stretch, we decided to take out that ad. So in the ad, I was like, let's just say we were voted the best pizza in Middletown. And my boss was like, I don't know if you can do that. Like, what's the rule? Despite this guy being mobbed up, right? Yeah, I don't know what the rules are for that kind of thing. Like, should we really do that? Why don't we just like say we got really good pizza or whatever? I was like, we'll just have a vote. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, it doesn't say who voted. I'm not saying it was voted by a survey of every single person in Middletown. I'm saying it was voted that. Everybody, if you think we've got the best pizza, raise your hand. 5 of us raised our hand. 3 of us didn't. We were voted the best pizza in Middletown. We ran the ad. I forget how I got onto that track. Oh, the award-winning Discord. Yeah, so the award-winning Discord is linked for free down below this video in the description, as is the website. So check that out. Hop into Discord. It's entirely free. You don't have to be a subscriber on YouTube or at the website, but it would help out a lot if you also click the subscribe here on YouTube. Larry, there's a pizza place. There have been 37 different pizza places in this location. It's on the northbound side of 35. All my references are old, so it's like where the path mark, I want to say, used to be before you get to where Sears used to be. You know where Old Village bar / package goods store is? It's in that little shopping center. Other than Larry, nobody else is going to care about the next 30 seconds of this show. But I'm struggling to remember the name of the goddamn road. Past Kings Highway. Whoa, there's a Wawa there now? Wild. Is this it? No, that's the Sears. Oh, no. Is Old Village no longer there, too? Yeah, this is it. New Monmouth Road. So it's at the intersection in New Monmouth and 35, that little weird shopping center on the northbound side on the north east corner. Old Village is apparently now called Burger Craze. It's a little counter burger joint. The Jersey Mike's is there. They've been there for 30 years. That's another, that probably would have been the easiest reference. Anyway, back to the slate here. 10 people bailed out while I was talking about that. Wah, wah, like the instrument. Yes. Yeah, Larry knows. All right, you knew what I was talking about that whole time, and you said that Jersey Mike's was in it before I did. There you go. That's where Serrano's was, one of the many, many failed pizza places in that spot. Anyway, to do the board real quick, because I got to get the website updated before the slate starts. Love Schwelly and Woo at the top of the board. Schwelly more challenged than Woo for a higher price and lower projection overall. Do with that what you will. Both guys very much in play and should be. Ben Brown, a high-end kid, at an excellent DraftKings price, a very playable FanDuel price against a gettable enough lineup for my money. A lot of strikeout upside, but there is a very visible basement. That might not work out because he's not been great in some starts this year and has a lot of growing to do. Bailey Ober is cheap, but has struggled his way through the season. Chad Patrick going to be popular at both prices. FanDuel 7,900, nice discount there. 86 is a little bit difficult on DraftKings, going up against an incredibly gettable Pirates lineup that we've been targeting all year. But maybe hedge with some Pirates on the other side, or maybe take the under-owned contrarian Pirates from the top of the lineup, like we talked through. Patrick is a little bit expensive and popular on DraftKings. Erod, really interesting as an SP2 at 73 against the White Sox. Walker Buehler is a mix and match play at best in that regard. 7,500, like I was saying, I kind of expect the Angels to come through against, so I don't love Buehler there. Liberator, kind of challenged by the Cubs at 82. Winans is interesting. A lot of downside from the ballpark. A lot of downside from some of the hard-hitting bats in that lineup, but he's found some success as a quad A 29-year-old pitching in AAA this season. We'll see how it translates. At least some interesting strikeout potential for 7,000, for 6,800. He's on the board. Again, though, we're not getting more than 5 unless the Yankees have changed their manager and didn't tell me. Stephen Kolek at 78, 79. Very interesting at the end of the night. Shane Smith, just not at that price, not at that price against that Diamondbacks lineup. If he was in the sevens, maybe we'd be considering him more. I just don't really see it coming through. Parker is kind of the same thing, but at least a dart at 68 because he's real cheap against the low strikeout pods, but similar, downside visibly. Lodolo is just too expensive for me at 9,000 on FanDuel against the Yankees with all that visible downside from the Vegas total. Good enough to get through them, though. On the wrong day, the Yanks give you some strikeouts and give you some zeros. So 8,000 on DraftKings, probably more playable there. And then the bottom of the board, Janowitz is just a dart. The other two aren't on the board at all. Greg says that it burned down 50 times. No, just failed over and over and over again. There's zero walk-in traffic. It's this weird little shopping center. We killed it the first year for like delivery and everything. And then just died on the vine. Like I said, once I started being our head cook and running the joint, it didn't go well. And then those guys went away to real estate school, as we called it. As I said, I've told this before, but it turned out that for the better part of like 6 months to a year, there was an FBI truck with guys in it, like earphones and everything, out in the parking lot some nights, listening in. They had the place wired for sound because they were trying to catch these guys that would go in there to eat that our guys were like affiliated with. And it was all part of that late 90s Wall Street scandal that the mob was tied in with some of these pump and dump places on Wall Street. So they're trying to catch the higher up guys. But what they would get most of those nights, if they were really listening, was me and my idiot friends like closing the place, smoking a bunch of pot, going over to the bar, having some drinks, coming back, opening the place back up, making some late night pizzas. So I just love the idea of them just having to listen to all that shit. Greg loves the history of Central Jersey portion of the show. Yeah, we're out the other side of the baseball content of this show for sure. With that in mind, though, let me get out of here so I can get the site updated. People are relying on those projections being there, and we're running a little bit overtime here, obviously. So you guys rock. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do. Tweet them at rotoscouts. Jump into the Discord. Join the community. Share them in there. Love seeing that. We've had some big wins in recent days. $10,000 NBA winner in a showdown last week. Love to see that. Love to see this success. Whether I'm winning or not makes me feel good. Thank you, Spencer the King. Thank you, Greg B. and Cohen, Larry C., everybody else out there. You guys rock. Back tomorrow for more. See you, gang.